The woman was drowning. Owen Mercer didn't think, he just moved. One moment he was watching his 5-year-old daughter Lily splash her bare feet in the shallows, her laughter bright as birdsong. The next, he was chest deep in cold water, fighting the current, his arms locked around a stranger's thrashing body as she clawed at his face and screamed words that would shatter everything he thought he knew about decency. "Get away from me! Don't touch me! Help! Somebody help!" She wasn't thanking him. She was accusing him. And just like that, the kindest thing Owen Mercer had ever done became the worst moment of his life. If you want to see how a single act of courage can change 2 broken lives forever, stay with me until the very end. And don't forget to hit that like button and drop a comment telling me what city you're watching from. I love seeing how far these stories travel. The evening had started so simply. Owen had promised Lily they'd catch dinner together, just the 2 of them, the way they did most Friday nights when the weather was fine and the creek ran clear. She'd been bouncing around the kitchen all afternoon, her dark curls wild around her face, chattering about the giant fish she was going to catch. Never mind that she'd never actually caught anything bigger than her own hand. "Daddy, do fish like cookies?" she'd asked seriously, holding up one of the sugar cookies they'd baked the night before. "I don't think so, baby girl," Owen had said, hiding his smile as he packed their gear. "But we'll bring some for us, just in case we get hungry." "Smart," Lily had declared, nodding with the gravity of a seasoned angler. Now, as the sun melted into the horizon and painted the water gold and amber, Owen watched his daughter crouch at the water's edge, her little fishing rod forgotten in the grass beside her as she studied a line of ants marching across a flat stone. "Look, Daddy, they're carrying stuff." "They're hard workers," Owen called back, checking his own line. "Just like you." She beamed at that, and Owen felt the familiar warmth spread through his chest, the kind that came from knowing that despite everything, despite the struggles and the loneliness and the bills that never seemed to stop coming, he'd managed to give this little girl a childhood filled with wonder. It hadn't been easy. 3 years ago, when Lily's mother had walked out without a backward glance, Owen had been working double shifts at the lumber mill just to keep the lights on. He'd come home to an empty house and a note that said simply, "I can't do this anymore. She's better off with you. No explanation, no apology, just gone." For months, Owen had moved through life in a fog of exhaustion and fear, convinced he was failing, convinced he wasn't enough. But Lily had been his anchor, her smile, her questions, her absolute faith that Daddy could fix anything. It had pulled him through. He'd left the mill, started doing carpentry work from home, so he could be there when she woke up and when she went to sleep. The money was tighter, but the time was theirs. And on evenings like this, when her laughter danced across the water and the world felt peaceful and whole, Owen knew he'd made the right choice. "Daddy! Daddy, look!" Lily was pointing upstream, her voice sharp with excitement. Owen turned, squinting against the low sun, and his heart stopped. There was someone in the water, not swimming, struggling. A woman, maybe 30 yards upstream, her arms flailing, her head dipping below the surface, and then reappearing as she gasped and choked. "Stay right there," Owen shouted to Lily, already moving, already running. He heard her frightened cry, "Daddy!" But he couldn't stop, couldn't think about anything except the fact that someone was drowning, and if he didn't reach her in the next 30 seconds, she'd be gone. The creek wasn't supposed to be dangerous here. It was shallow, gentle, the kind of place where kids played and families picnicked. But upstream, where the woman was now being pulled by the current, the bottom dropped away and the water moved faster, meaner. Owen hit the water at a full sprint, the cold punching the air from his lungs. His boots filled instantly, dragging at his legs, but he pushed forward, his eyes locked on the woman's dark hair, her pale arms. "I'm coming! Hold on!" She went under again. Owen dove. His hand found fabric, a sleeve, a shoulder, and he hauled her upward with everything he had. She broke the surface coughing and sputtering, her eyes wide and wild with panic. He got his arm around her chest, turned her so her back was against him, and started pulling them both toward the shore. She fought him, not the current, him. Her elbow cracked against his ribs. Her nails raked across his forearm, drawing blood. She was screaming, the words garbled by water and terror, but he could hear enough. "Let go! Get off! Don't—" "I'm trying to help you," Owen gasped, fighting to keep her head above water as she thrashed. "Stop fighting me!" But she didn't stop. If anything, she fought harder, twisting in his grip, her fear giving her a strength that made his arms burn. Owen's boot found purchase on a rock and he used it to push them toward the shallows, toward safety, even as she clawed and kicked. His feet hit solid ground. He half dragged, half carried her the last few feet and released her the moment the water was only knee-deep. She scrambled away from him, crawling onto the muddy bank, coughing violently. Her clothes, expensive-looking city clothes, were plastered to her skin. Her dark hair hung in wet ropes around a face that was flushed and furious. Owen stood there, chest heaving, water streaming from his clothes, his heart hammering so hard he could barely hear over it. "Are you okay?" he managed. She looked up at him, and the expression on her face was pure hatred. "Don't come near me," she hissed. "Don't you dare come near me." Owen froze. "Ma'am, you grabbed me." Her voice was shaking, rising. You touched me. You were drowning." The words came out stunned, disbelieving. "You were going under. I pulled you out. I didn't ask you to." She was on her feet now, backing away, her arms wrapped around herself. "You had no right. You can't just—" "Daddy?" Owen's blood went cold. Lily was standing at the edge of the creek, her little face white with fear, her eyes huge and wet with tears. "It's okay, baby," Owen said quickly, his voice unsteady. "It's okay. This lady she needed help." "You stay away from that child," the woman shouted, and Owen's shock turned to something darker, something that burned in his gut like acid. "That's my daughter," he said, his voice low and hard. "And you need to calm down. I need to—" She let out a sound that was half laugh, half sob. "I need to get away from you. Where's my phone? Where's my—" She patted her pockets frantically, then looked back at the water with an expression of pure despair. Owen closed his eyes briefly, trying to find patience, trying to steady the anger and hurt that were warring in his chest. "Look," he said carefully, "I don't know what you think just happened here, but I saw you drowning and I helped you, that's all. I'm sorry if I scared you, but scared me." She was shaking now, whether from cold or shock or rage, he couldn't tell. You have no idea." She stopped, pressing her hands to her face, and for a moment Owen thought she might actually collapse. Then Lily's small voice cut through the tension like a blade. "You're bleeding, Daddy." Owen looked down. Blood was running down his forearm in thin streams where her nails had torn the skin. It didn't hurt, he hadn't even noticed, but the sight of it seemed to do something to the woman. Her face changed, the fury draining away and leaving something else behind, something that looked almost like horror. "I didn't mean—" she started, then stopped. "I thought—" But she didn't finish. Instead, she turned and stumbled away, moving up the bank toward the road, her wet shoes squelching in the mud. Owen watched her go, his mind still reeling, still trying to make sense of what had just happened. "Daddy, why was she so mad?" Lily whispered, pressing herself against his leg. Owen looked down at his daughter's frightened face and felt something inside him crack. "I don't know, sweetheart," he said quietly, gathering her into his arms. "Sometimes people get scared, and they don't think straight. It's okay. She's okay now." But as he held Lily close and watched the strange woman disappear over the rise, Owen wasn't sure that was true. She hadn't looked okay, and neither, he realized, did he. They walked home in silence, Lily clutching his hand tightly, her usual chatter replaced by an anxious quiet that broke Owen's heart. He kept replaying the moment in his mind, the woman's face, her words, the way she'd looked at him like he was something dangerous, something vile. "You grabbed me." He had. But what was he supposed to do? Let her drown? By the time they reached the small house at the end of Miller's Road, the sun had set completely, and the first stars were beginning to appear. Owen unlocked the door and ushered Lily inside, flipping on lights, trying to restore some sense of normalcy. "How about we have those cookies for dinner?" he suggested, forcing a smile. Lily looked up at him solemnly. "Cookies aren't dinner, Daddy." "Tonight they are." That got a small smile, and Owen felt some of the tension ease. He changed out of his wet clothes, cleaned the scratches on his arm, they were shallow, nothing serious, and set about making Lily a proper meal while she colored at the kitchen table. But his mind wouldn't settle. Who was that woman? What had she been doing in the creek in the first place? And why had she reacted like that? Like he'd attacked her instead of saving her? The questions circled endlessly, and by the time he'd tucked Lily into bed and read her 3 stories instead of the usual one, Owen was exhausted in a way that had nothing to do with physical effort. He stood in her doorway for a long moment, watching her sleep, her dark lashes resting against her cheeks, her small chest rising and falling in the steady rhythm of childhood dreams. I did the right thing, he told himself. I saved her life. So why did he feel like he'd done something wrong? The storm rolled in just after midnight. Owen was still awake, sitting at the kitchen table with a cold cup of coffee when the first drops began to hit the windows. Within minutes, it had built into a full downpour, the kind of violent summer storm that turned roads into rivers and sent tree branches crashing into power lines. Thunder cracked overhead, so loud it shook the walls. Owen moved to check the windows, making sure everything was sealed, that no water was getting in. The house was old but sturdy. He'd spent the better part of 2 years fixing it up, sealing leaks, reinforcing weak spots. It would hold. The knock came at 2:17 a.m. Owen's first thought was that a tree had fallen on a neighbor's house. His second was that something had happened to his truck. But when he opened the door, prepared for emergency or disaster, what he found was something else entirely. The woman from the creek stood on his porch, soaked to the bone, shivering violently. For a moment, neither of them spoke. Rain hammered down around her, creating a curtain of water that blurred the world beyond. Her expensive clothes were ruined, clinging to her frame. Her hair hung in dark tangles, and her eyes, those eyes that had looked at him with such fury just hours ago, were now wide with desperation. Her voice cracked. My car broke down, about a mile up the road. I tried to walk to town, but She wrapped her arms tighter around herself. There's no one else. All the houses were dark. I saw your light. Owen stood there, hand still on the door, every instinct telling him to slam it shut, to protect himself, to not let this woman, this stranger who'd accused him, who'd made him feel like a criminal for doing the right thing, into his home. But he couldn't, because underneath the anger and the hurt, Owen Mercer was still the kind of man who couldn't leave someone standing in a storm. Come in, he said quietly, stepping back. She hesitated, and he saw the war playing out on her face. Pride versus need, suspicion versus desperation. Need won. She stepped inside. Water pooled at her feet immediately, dripping from her clothes, her hair. She stood in his small entryway looking lost and miserable, her arms still wrapped around herself, her whole body trembling. Owen closed the door against the storm and moved past her carefully, keeping his distance, making sure she could see his hands, his movements. He grabbed a towel from the bathroom and held it out to her without getting close. Here. She took it with shaking hands, murmured something that might have been, thank you. I'll get you some dry clothes, Owen said. You can change in the bathroom. There's a lock on the door. He said that last part deliberately and saw understanding flicker in her eyes. She nodded once, sharply. Owen disappeared into his bedroom and returned with an old flannel shirt and a pair of sweatpants that would be too big for her but were the best he had. He set them on the couch and gestured toward the bathroom. Take your time. She gathered the clothes and vanished behind the bathroom door. Owen heard the lock click, a small sound that somehow made his chest ache. He moved to the kitchen and started making tea, his hands moving automatically through the familiar motions. Outside, the storm raged on, wind howling through the trees, rain pounding against the roof. Inside, the silence was almost as loud. The bathroom door opened. She emerged looking smaller somehow, swallowed by his clothes, her wet things bundled in her arms. Her face was scrubbed clean of whatever makeup she'd been wearing, and without it, she looked younger, more vulnerable. You can put those in the dryer, Owen said, nodding toward the small laundry closet. Should be dry in an hour or so. She did as he suggested, then stood awkwardly in the middle of his living room, looking like she didn't know what to do with her hands, her body, herself. Tea? Owen offered, holding up the mug he'd prepared. She stopped, started again. Yes, thank you. He brought it to her, set it on the coffee table, and retreated to the armchair across the room, putting as much space between them as the small house would allow. For a long moment, the only sounds were the storm outside and the quiet hum of the dryer. Then she spoke, her voice barely above a whisper. I'm sorry. Owen looked at her. She was staring into the tea, her hands wrapped around the mug like she was trying to absorb its warmth. For what happened at the creek, she continued, still not meeting his eyes. For what I said, her voice caught. You were trying to help me, and I panicked. I wasn't thinking clearly. I thought. She stopped, pressed her lips together hard. It's okay, Owen said, though he wasn't sure it was. It's not. She finally looked up, and her eyes were bright with unshed tears. You saved my life, and I accused you of. She shook her head sharply. There's no excuse for that. I was wrong. I'm sorry. The words hung in the air between them, fragile and honest. Owen felt some of the weight on his chest ease. What were you doing in the creek? He asked quietly. If you don't mind me asking, she let out a long breath. Being an idiot, apparently. A ghost of a bitter smile crossed her face. I pulled over because I saw the water, and I wanted 5 minutes away from my phone, from work, from everything. I took my shoes off and walked in, and I didn't realize how deep it got. My foot slipped on a rock, and she shrugged helplessly. Next thing I knew, I was under. You don't know how to swim? I do. I panicked. The current was stronger than I thought, and I couldn't get my footing, and she closed her eyes. I thought I was going to die. The simple honesty of it, the quiet terror in those words, made Owen's throat tighten. But you didn't, he said gently. You're okay now. She opened her eyes and looked at him, really looked at him, for the first time since she'd walked through his door. Because of you, she said. You didn't have to help me, especially after the way I treated you, but you let me in anyway. Her voice dropped to almost nothing. Why? Owen considered the question. Outside, lightning flashed, illuminating the room in stark white before plunging it back into warm darkness. Because it's the right thing to do, he said finally, and because I know what it's like to need help and not know where to find it. Something in her expression softened. You have a daughter. It wasn't a question, but Owen nodded anyway. Lily, she's 5. She was scared today. Because of me. Genuine remorse colored her words. I'm sorry for that too. She'll be okay, Owen said. Kids are resilient, and I explained that you were just frightened. That's generous of you. She paused. Is her mother? Not in the picture, Owen said shortly. It's just me and Lily. Understanding flickered across her face, followed by something that looked like recognition. That must be hard. It is, Owen admitted, but it's worth it. She nodded slowly, then looked around the small, tidy room, at the framed photos of Lily on the walls, the worn but comfortable furniture, the stack of coloring books on the side table, the wooden duck he'd been carving sitting on the mantel. You made that? She asked, gesturing to the duck. I do woodworking, Owen said. Carving, furniture, whatever people need, keeps the bills paid and lets me be here for Lily. It's beautiful. Thank you. Another silence fell, but this one felt different, less hostile, almost comfortable. Then she set down her tea and met his eyes directly. I'm Celeste, she said. Celeste Rowan. Owen Mercer. It's nice to properly meet you, Owen. She managed a small, real smile. Even if the circumstances are somewhat unusual. Despite everything, the fear, the anger, the confusion of the past few hours, Owen found himself smiling back. Unusual is one word for it. What? Thunder rumbled overhead, and Celeste glanced toward the window. Is the storm supposed to last all night? Through tomorrow, probably, and from the sound of that wind, I wouldn't be surprised if some roads wash out. Owen paused. You said your car broke down? Mile up Miller's Road, just died on me. I tried to restart it, but nothing. Owen's expression grew concerned. That's not good. The road floods out there when it rains like this. If your car's still in the low spot, it'll be underwater, Celeste finished, her face falling. Perfect. That's just perfect. I'm sorry. She laughed, but there was no humor in it. Not your fault. Just the perfect end to a perfect week. There was a story there. Owen could hear it in the brittleness of her laugh, see it in the exhaustion that lined her face. But before he could ask, a small voice called from the hallway. Daddy? Both adults turned. Lily stood in the doorway of her bedroom, clutching her stuffed rabbit, her eyes sleepy and confused. The thunder woke me up, she said, and I heard talking. I'm sorry, baby girl. Come here. Owen held out his arms, and Lily padded across the room and climbed into his lap, pressing her face against his chest. He wrapped his arms around her. It's okay. The storm's loud tonight, but we're safe. Lily peeked out at Celeste, who had gone very still. That's the lady from the creek, Lily whispered loudly. It is, Owen confirmed. Her car broke down in the storm, so she's staying here until it's safe to leave. Her name is Celeste. Lily studied Celeste with the solemn intensity only children can manage. Are you still mad at my daddy? Celeste's face crumpled slightly. No, sweetheart, I'm not mad anymore. I was just scared before, but your daddy helped me and Her voice caught. I was wrong to be angry. Your daddy is a very good man. Lily seemed to consider this, then nodded with satisfaction. I know. He's the best daddy in the whole world. I believe you, Celeste said quietly. Do you want some cookies? Lily asked suddenly. We made sugar cookies yesterday. They're really good. Despite the late hour and the strangeness of the situation, Owen felt himself smile. I think that's a nice idea, Lily, but maybe in the morning. It's very late right now. Lily yawned hugely, as if just realizing how tired she was. Okay. Good night, Miss Celeste. Good night, Lily. Owen carried his daughter back to bed, tucked her in again, and returned to find Celeste wiping her eyes. Sorry, she said quickly. I'm not usually. She stopped, shook her head. She's lovely. You're doing a wonderful job with her. Thank you. Celeste stood, pulling Owen's too large shirt tighter around herself. I should let you get some sleep. I've disrupted your night enough already. If you could just point me toward... The couch pulls out into a bed, Owen interrupted gently. You're not going back out in that storm, and you're certainly not walking anywhere at this hour. You'll stay here tonight, and in the morning, when the weather clears, we'll figure out your car situation. I can't impose like that. You're not imposing. You're accepting help. There's a difference. She looked at him for a long moment, and Owen could see her struggling, pride against practicality, independence against exhaustion. Finally, she nodded. Thank you. I'll leave first thing in the morning. We'll see what morning brings, Owen said. Let me get you some blankets. He set her up on the pull-out couch with clean sheets, and his warmest blanket showed her where everything was, then retreated to his own room. But sleep didn't come easily. He lay in the darkness, listening to the storm and thinking about the strange woman now sleeping in his living room. Celeste Rowan. She was clearly running from something, whether it was a bad job, a bad relationship, or just a bad life. He couldn't tell. But he recognized that look in her eyes, that bone-deep exhaustion that came from carrying too much for too long. He knew it because he'd worn that same expression himself 3 years ago, when the world had fallen apart, and he'd had to figure out how to put it back together with nothing but duct tape and determination. Whatever she was running from, she'd found shelter here, at least for tonight. And maybe, Owen thought as he finally drifted toward sleep, that was enough. The morning broke gray and waterlogged, the storm having passed but leaving everything sodden in its wake. Owen woke early out of habit and lay in bed listening to the house's familiar sounds. The drip of water from the eaves, the creak of old boards settling, the distant chirp of birds venturing out after the rain. And then, unexpectedly, the sound of movement from the kitchen. He pulled on jeans and a t-shirt and emerged to find Celeste standing at his stove, fully dressed in her own clothes, which were indeed dry, stirring something in a pan. She turned at the sound of his footsteps, looking almost guilty. I'm sorry, she said quickly. I hope you don't mind. I woke up early and I couldn't just lie there, so I thought, I found eggs and bread, and I can make breakfast at least. To say thank you for... She gestured vaguely at everything. Owen blinked, trying to process the sight of this polished city woman standing in his humble kitchen, making breakfast like she belonged there. You don't have to do that, he said. I know, but I want to. She turned back to the stove. Besides, I'm actually a decent cook when I have the time, which is almost never, but... She shrugged. Scrambled okay? Scrambled is perfect. Owen made coffee while Celeste finished the eggs, and by the time Lily wandered out of her room, rubbing her eyes and dragging her rabbit behind her, The small kitchen table was set with simple plates of scrambled eggs, toast, and sliced strawberries that Celeste had found in the refrigerator. "Good morning, sweetheart," Owen said, lifting Lily into her chair. "Morning, Daddy." Lily looked at Celeste with interest. "You're still here." "I am," Celeste said, sitting across from her. "The storm was very bad last night, so your daddy said I could stay." "That's good. Daddy doesn't like people to be scared in storms." Lily picked up her fork and attacked her eggs with enthusiasm. "These are yummy." "I'm glad you like them." They ate in comfortable quiet, the only sounds the clink of silverware and Lily's running commentary on the storm. "The thunder was so loud, Miss Celeste," and her plans for the day. "We got to check if the creek got bigger." Celeste listened with what seemed like genuine interest, asking questions, laughing at Lily's dramatic retellings. And slowly, Owen saw her shoulders relax, saw some of the tension drain from her face. She looked, he realized, like someone who hadn't laughed in a very long time. After breakfast, Owen excused himself to check on Celeste's car situation. He pulled on boots and a rain jacket and walked the mile up Miller's Road to where she'd described leaving her vehicle. What he found wasn't good. The car, a sleek silver sedan that had probably cost more than Owen made in a year, was sitting hub-deep in muddy water, the entire low section of the road transformed into a shallow pond. Owen waded out to it and looked inside. Water had gotten into the interior, soaking the floor mats. The engine was cold, and when he tried the key she'd given him, completely dead. He walked back to the house to deliver the bad news. Celeste took it better than he expected, though her face went pale. "How bad?" she asked. "It needs to be towed out and dried out before anyone can even diagnose what's wrong," Owen said honestly. "And the road's going to need at least a day to drain before a tow truck can get through. So I'm stuck here." It wasn't a question. "For today, at least. Maybe tomorrow, too, depending on how fast the water recedes." Owen paused. "I'm sorry." Celeste closed her eyes briefly, then opened them and squared her shoulders. "It's not your fault. You've done nothing but help me since this whole nightmare started." She managed a wry smile. "I just need to call my office, let them know I won't be in for a few days." She stopped, her face falling. "My phone. It was in my car. It's probably destroyed." "You can use mine," Owen offered immediately. "Thank you." She took the phone he handed her and stepped outside onto the porch for privacy. Through the window, Owen watched her make the call. He couldn't hear the words, but he could see her body language, the straight spine, the professional tone, the way she paced as she talked. This was someone used to being in control, used to managing situations. Being stranded in the countryside with strangers had to be killing her. When she came back inside, she looked exhausted. "Everything okay?" Owen asked. "As okay as it can be. My assistant was surprised, but I told her I had a family emergency. She'll cover the urgent matters." Celeste handed back his phone. "Thank you." "What is it you do?" Owen asked, curious despite himself. "Corporate strategy consultant," Celeste said. "I help companies restructure, streamline operations, improve efficiency. Basically, I tell people what they're doing wrong and how to fix it." "Sounds stressful." "It is." She laughed without humor. "I work 60, 70-hour weeks. I travel constantly. I barely sleep. And for what? A corner office and an ulcer?" The bitterness in her voice was sharp enough to cut. "Is that why you were at the creek?" Owen asked gently. "Trying to get away from all that?" Celeste looked at him, and something in her expression cracked. "I was on my way back from a conference in the city. I'd been presenting for 2 days straight, barely eating, running on coffee and stress. And I was driving home and I just..." She swallowed hard. "I couldn't do it. I couldn't face my empty apartment, couldn't face my inbox, couldn't face any of it. So I pulled over at the first place that looked peaceful, and I thought I'd just sit by the water for 10 minutes, clear my head. And instead I nearly drowned and accused my rescuer of assault, and..." Her voice broke. "Hey," Owen said quietly. "You were scared. You weren't thinking clearly, and you apologized. That takes courage." "I didn't deserve your kindness," Celeste said, "either at the creek or last night, but you gave it anyway." "Everyone deserves kindness," Owen said, "especially when they're struggling." She looked at him for a long moment, her eyes suspiciously bright. Then Lily burst into the room, saving them both from the weight of the moment. Daddy, can Miss Celeste help us make lunch? I want to show her how we make grilled cheese. Owen glanced at Celeste, giving her an out if she wanted it. But to his surprise, she smiled. A real smile this time, one that reached her eyes. I would love to learn how you make grilled cheese, Lily. And just like that, the day took on an unexpected rhythm. Celeste, who had probably never spent more than 5 minutes in a kitchen that wasn't professional grade, let Lily teach her the secret to perfect grilled cheese. Butter on the outside of the bread, not the inside, and press it down with the spatula really hard. She listened intently as Owen explained the basics of wood carving, running her fingers over the smooth lines of the duck he'd finished. She helped Lily build an elaborate fort out of couch cushions and blankets, laughing as they draped sheets over chairs to make secret rooms. She fit somehow into the simple rhythm of their day in a way that surprised all of them. That evening, after dinner, spaghetti that Lily insisted on making almost entirely herself, resulting in noodles that were slightly overcooked and sauce that was slightly too sweet, but which they all ate with genuine pleasure. Owen found Celeste standing on the porch, looking out at the darkening sky. He joined her, keeping a respectful distance. "Penny for your thoughts?" he offered. She smiled slightly. "I was just thinking how strange this is. 24 hours ago, I didn't know you existed. And now I'm standing in your home, wearing your clothes, eating dinner with your daughter, and it feels..." She stopped, searching for words. "It feels more real than anything in my actual life has felt in years." Owen didn't know what to say to that. "I live in a world of numbers and metrics and quarterly projections," Celeste continued softly. "Everything is about optimization, efficiency, growth. But when was the last time I actually felt something? When was the last time I laughed because something was genuinely funny, not because it was expected? When was the last time I sat down to a meal and actually tasted the food?" She turned to look at him, and in the fading light her eyes were luminous. "You have something here, Owen. Something I didn't even know I was missing until I stumbled into it. And I don't know whether that makes me feel grateful or sad or..." "Both," Owen said quietly. "It can be both." She nodded, understanding passing between them without words. From inside came Lily's voice, calling for her daddy to come see the picture she'd drawn. "Duty calls," Owen said with a small smile. "The best kind," Celeste replied. And as they walked back inside together, Owen couldn't shake the feeling that something had shifted, that this strange woman who'd fallen into his life might not be quite the stranger he'd thought. The storm had passed, but something else had been set in motion. Something neither of them fully understood yet, but both of them could feel building, like the electric charge in the air before lightning strikes. The next morning arrived with brilliant sunshine, as if the storm had never happened. Owen woke to the smell of coffee brewing, a smell he hadn't woken to in 3 years, since before everything had fallen apart. For a disoriented moment, he thought he was dreaming. Then he remembered. Celeste. He found her in the kitchen again, this time with his laptop open on the table, her fingers flying across the keys with practiced efficiency. She'd pulled her dark hair back into a ponytail and was wearing the same clothes from yesterday, now fully dry and pressed. She looked up when he entered, offering a quick smile before returning to her screen. "Sorry," she said without stopping her typing. "I found your laptop on the shelf and I needed to check my email. I hope that's okay. I tried not to wake you." "It's fine." Owen moved to the coffee pot, poured himself a cup. "How bad is it?" 14 urgent messages, 6 missed calls, and 3 clients threatening to take their business elsewhere if I don't respond immediately. She said it matter-of-factly, but Owen heard the edge of exhaustion beneath. "Just another Tuesday." "It's Thursday." "Is it?" Celeste looked genuinely surprised, then laughed, a short, brittle sound. "I honestly didn't know. The days all blur together." Owen leaned against the counter, studying her. In the morning light, he could see the shadows under her eyes more clearly, the tension in her shoulders, the way her jaw clenched even as she maintained her professional composure. "You don't have to work while you're here," he said gently. "You could take a break, just for a day or two." "I don't know how to take a break." She said it like a confession. "I've been running so hard for so long that I'm not sure I remember how to stop." Before Owen could respond, Lily padded into the kitchen, still in her pajamas, her rabbit dragging behind her. "Morning, Daddy." "Morning, Miss Celeste." She climbed into Owen's lap and peered at the laptop screen with interest. "What are you doing?" "Working," Celeste said, then seemed to catch herself. She looked at Lily's curious face, and something shifted in her expression. Actually, you know what? I'm done working. She closed the laptop with a decisive click. Really? Lily asked, brightening. Really? Celeste met Owen's eyes over his daughter's head, and he saw something like determination there. I'm stuck here anyway. Might as well make the most of it. Yay! Lily bounced in Owen's lap. Can we show Miss Celeste the garden? And the chickens? And the big tree with the swing? If Miss Celeste wants to, Owen said carefully, giving her another out. But Celeste was already standing, stretching her arms over her head. I would love to see all of those things. But first, breakfast. What do you usually have on Thursdays? Pancakes, Lily declared. Daddy makes them shaped like animals. Does he now? Celeste looked at Owen with something like amusement. That sounds like a skill I need to witness. And so Owen found himself making pancakes while Celeste watched, Lily providing enthusiastic commentary. That one's a bunny. See the ears? I see them, Celeste said, leaning closer. Very impressive. Some daddy can make elephants and cats and sometimes dinosaurs, but those are hard. I bet they are. Owen flipped the bunny pancake onto a plate and handed it to Lily, who immediately drowned it in syrup. He started another one, this time attempting a butterfly, though it came out looking more like a blob with wings. That's beautiful, Celeste said, and Owen couldn't tell if she was being sincere or sarcastic. It's abstract, he replied dryly. She laughed, a real laugh this time, not the brittle corporate sound from before. Well, I think it's charming. They ate breakfast on the back porch, Lily chattering between bites about everything and nothing. Her favorite color, currently purple. Her best friend at kindergarten, Emma, who had the best sticker collection, and her determination to catch a fish bigger than her hand. We can try again today, Owen suggested, if the creek settled down enough. Can Miss Celeste come? Lily asked immediately. Owen glanced at Celeste, expecting reluctance, but she surprised him. I'd like that, she said. I've never actually been fishing before. Lily's eyes went wide. Never ever? Never ever? Then we have to teach you. Lily was already scrambling out of her chair. I'll get the poles. She raced off, leaving Owen and Celeste alone on the porch. The morning air was fresh and clean after the rain, carrying the scent of wet earth and growing things. Birds sang in the trees. The world felt new. You don't have to do this, Owen said quietly. If you'd rather rest or work or... I want to, Celeste interrupted. She was looking out at the garden, at the neat rows of vegetables, and the chicken coop beyond, at the tire swing hanging from the old oak tree. When was the last time I did something just because I wanted to, not because it was expected or required or strategic? She turned to him. I can't even remember. There was something raw in her voice, something vulnerable that made Owen's chest tighten. Then we'll go fishing, he said simply. Lily returned with the fishing poles and an enthusiasm that could have powered a small city. She insisted on teaching Celeste everything important, which apparently included the proper way to hold a pole, how to watch the bobber, and why you had to be super quiet so the fish don't get scared. They walked down to the creek together, Lily between them, holding both their hands and swinging her arms dramatically with each step. The water had receded somewhat, but was still higher than normal, rushing over rocks with a sound like constant conversation. Owen found a good spot on the bank where the current was gentler, where he and Lily had caught bluegill before. He baited Lily's hook first, then Celeste's, showing her how to cast without getting tangled. Like this, he demonstrated, his arm moving in a smooth arc. The line sailed out and the bobber plopped into the water about 20 feet from shore. Celeste tried to mimic his motion and promptly tangled her line in a bush behind them. Oops, she said, laughing at herself. I'm terrible at this. You just need practice. Owen moved behind her to help untangle the line, acutely aware of how close they were standing, how her hair smelled faintly of his shampoo. Try again. Keep your elbow up and follow through. This time, when she cast, the line went sailing out in a perfect arc. The bobber landed with a satisfying plop. I did it! Celeste looked genuinely delighted, like a child who'd just mastered a new skill. You did great, Owen said, stepping back quickly, putting proper distance between them again. They settled in to wait, Lily providing a running commentary on cloud shapes and bird sounds, and the family of turtles she was convinced lived under the big rock on the opposite bank. Celeste listened attentively, asking questions, laughing at Lily's stories, and slowly, so slowly Owen almost didn't notice it happening, the tension in her shoulders began to ease. "My bobber moved," Lily shrieked suddenly, scrambling to her feet. "Easy, easy," Owen coached, moving to help her. "Wait for it to go under. Let the fish take the bait." They watched the bobber dip and dance on the surface. Then it disappeared completely. "Now, pull up!" Lily yanked on her pole with all her might, nearly falling backward. Owen caught her, helped her keep the line tight as something fought on the other end. It wasn't big, but it was putting up a good fight. "Keep reeling, you've got it!" Celeste had stood up too, watching with genuine excitement as Lily worked the fish closer to shore. When it finally broke the surface, a scrappy little bluegill, maybe 6 inches long, Lily let out a triumphant yell. "I got one! I got one! Miss Celeste, look!" "That's amazing, Lily." Celeste was grinning, her whole face transformed by the smile. "You're a natural." Owen helped Lily bring the fish to shore, showed her how to hold it carefully, explained about the gills and fins. Then they released it back into the water and watched it dart away into the depths. "Can we catch another one?" Lily asked immediately. "We can try," Owen said, baiting her hook again. But before they could cast again, Celeste's bobber went under. "Oh!" She grabbed her pole, looking startled. What do I do?" "Pull up," Lily coached, bouncing with excitement. "Reel it in." Celeste did as instructed, her movements awkward but determined. Whatever was on her line was bigger than Lily's fish. Owen could tell by the way the pole bent, by the strain in Celeste's arms as she worked to bring it in. "Keep your tip up," Owen said, moving to her side. "Don't let the line go slack." "I'm trying," Celeste said through gritted teeth, laughing even as she struggled. "This thing is strong." It took several minutes of careful work, but finally the fish came close enough for Owen to net it. When he lifted it from the water, even he was impressed. "That's a bass," he said, grinning, "and a nice one too. Probably 2 pounds." "I caught that?" Celeste was staring at the fish like she couldn't quite believe it was real. "You sure did." "Can we keep it?" Lily asked, peering at the base with interest. "Can we eat it?" Owen looked at Celeste. "Your fish. Your choice." Celeste studied the base for a long moment, watching it flex and fight against the net. Then she shook her head. "Let it go," she said softly. "Something that strong deserves to stay free." There was something in the way she said it that made Owen wonder if she was still talking about the fish. He released the base back into the creek, and they all watched it disappear into the dark water with one powerful flick of its tail. They spent another hour at the creek, catching and releasing, talking and laughing. Lily regaled them with elaborate stories about the kingdom under the water, where the fish lived. Celeste asked questions about the plants growing along the bank, about the birds overhead, about everything, really, like someone discovering the world for the first time. When they finally headed back to the house, Lily, walking ahead of them and singing an off-key song about fish, Celeste spoke quietly. "Thank you for this." "For what?" Owen asked. "For letting me be part of this. Your life with Lily. It's—" She paused, searching for words. "I didn't realize how much I needed it. How much I needed to remember what it feels like to just be somewhere, instead of always rushing to the next thing." Owen glanced at her. "You're welcome here as long as you need to be." Something flickered in her expression, gratitude maybe, or relief, or something else entirely. "Even after the way we started?" she asked. "Especially after the way we started," Owen said. "Everyone deserves a second chance." When they reached the house, Celeste's phone, which she'd borrowed from Owen again to make calls, rang. She answered it, her expression shifting immediately into professional mode. "Yes, this is Celeste Rowan. Yes, I understand, but—" She walked away from the house for privacy, her free hand gesturing as she talked. Owen could hear the tension creeping back into her voice, see it returning to her posture. When she came back 10 minutes later, she looked exhausted. "They need me back," she said flatly. "There's a major client presentation on Monday, and they're panicking without me there to manage it." "What about your car?" Owen asked. "I'll rent one. Have it delivered here if I need to." She ran a hand through her hair. I should probably call now, see if someone can bring one out today. Or, Owen said carefully, you could wait until tomorrow. Give yourself one more day. The presentation isn't until Monday. You said so yourself. You have time. Celeste looked at him, clearly torn. I don't know if I should, she said quietly. Every instinct I have is screaming at me to get back, to fix things, to run yourself into the ground, Owen finished gently. Celeste, you were drowning in that creek, literally drowning. Maybe that was the universe telling you something. I don't believe in the universe sending messages, she said, but there was no conviction in it. Then believe in common sense, Owen countered. You're exhausted. You're stressed. One more day isn't going to make or break anything, but it might make a difference for you. From inside the house came the sound of Lily singing, still the fish song, now with more verses about underwater castles and mermaid princesses. Celeste closed her eyes, and when she opened them again, Owen saw the moment she made her decision. One more day, she said. The afternoon passed in a gentle rhythm that felt almost surreal in its simplicity. Owen worked in his small workshop behind the house, finishing a commissioned piece, a jewelry box made from cherry wood, with dovetail joints and a lid that fit so perfectly it made almost no sound when it closed. Celeste watched him work, asking questions about the tools, the wood, the process. How did you learn to do this? She asked, running her fingers over the smooth surface of the box. My grandfather taught me, Owen said, using fine sandpaper to smooth an edge. He was a carpenter, built half the houses in this county. When I was a kid, I'd spend every summer in his workshop, just watching him work. Eventually, he started letting me help. Taught me that if you're going to make something, make it right. Make it last. That's beautiful, Celeste said softly. That kind of legacy. What about you? Owen asked. Where did you learn to be a consultant? Celeste's expression darkened slightly. Business school. 100-hour weeks. Cutthroat competition. They teach you to see everything as a problem to be solved, a system to be optimized. People become resources. Relationships become networking opportunities. She laughed without humor. It's a great way to be successful and miserable at the same time. So why do you do it? The question seemed to catch her off guard. She was quiet for a long moment, watching Owen's hands move over the wood with practiced precision. Because I'm good at it, she said finally. Because I worked so hard to get where I am, and I don't know how to just walk away. Because if I stop, I have to face the fact that I've spent 15 years building a life that doesn't actually make me happy. The honesty in her words hung in the air between them. It's not too late to build a different one, Owen said quietly. Isn't it? Celeste met his eyes. I'm 37 years old. I have no family, no real friends, just colleagues and clients. I own an apartment I'm never in and a car that's currently drowning in a ditch. I don't even have a plant because I'm never home long enough to water it. She swallowed hard. What kind of life is that? One you can change, Owen said, if you want to. Before Celeste could respond, Lily burst into the workshop, her face flushed with excitement. Daddy, the chickens laid eggs. Can we make cookies, please, please, please? Owen looked at Celeste, saw her quickly wipe her eyes. What do you say, Miss Celeste? He asked gently. Want to learn the ancient art of sugar cookie making? She managed a wobbly smile. I think I need to. The kitchen became a battleground of flour and sugar, Lily enthusiastically helping by adding ingredients with more enthusiasm than accuracy. Celeste measured and mixed under Lily's watchful instruction, laughing as flour somehow ended up in her hair, on her nose, everywhere except entirely in the bowl. You're supposed to crack the eggs over the bowl, Lily said seriously as Celeste fished eggshell out of the batter. I'm learning that, Celeste replied, grinning. They cut the cookies into shapes, stars and hearts and circles, and while they baked, filling the kitchen with warmth and the smell of vanilla, Lily taught Celeste the proper technique for testing cookie dough. You gotta taste it, Lily explained, sneaking a fingerful, to make sure it's good. That makes perfect sense, Celeste said, doing the same. Oh, that is good. Owen leaned against the counter, watching them together, and felt something shift in his chest. Lily was laughing, completely at ease, bossing Celeste around with the confidence of a tiny chef. And Celeste, polished, professional Celeste, who ran companies and commanded conference rooms, was taking orders from a 5-year-old and looking happier than she had since she'd arrived. When the cookies came out of the oven, golden and perfect, they decorated them with icing and sprinkles. Lily's looked like abstract art. Celeste's were slightly better, though she kept apologizing for their imperfection. "They're cookies, not corporate presentations," Owen teased. "They don't have to be perfect." "I don't know how to do things that aren't perfect," Celeste admitted. "It's kind of a problem." "Well, here's your chance to practice," Owen said, deliberately making his next cookie a lopsided mess of blue icing and too many sprinkles. "See? Imperfect and delicious." Celeste laughed and copied him, creating her own disaster of a cookie. "You're right, still delicious." That evening, after dinner and after Lily had been tucked into bed with promises of more fishing tomorrow, Owen and Celeste found themselves on the porch again. It had become their spot somehow, this quiet space where the day settled and honest words came easier. "I called my assistant earlier," Celeste said, staring out at the darkening yard. "Told her I needed one more day. She asked if everything was okay." "What did you tell her?" "That I didn't know." Celeste wrapped her arms around herself despite the warm evening air. "And the scary thing is, I meant it. I don't know if anything is okay. I don't know what I'm doing here or why I'm staying or what happens when I leave." "You don't have to have all the answers," Owen said gently. "Yes, I do. That's my job. That's what I do. I find answers, solve problems, fix things." She turned to look at him, and in the porch light, her eyes were bright with unshed tears. "But I can't fix myself, Owen. I don't even know where to start." Owen wanted to reach out, to offer comfort, but he kept his hands to himself, kept the respectful distance they'd maintained. "Maybe you don't need fixing," he said instead. "Maybe you just need rest. Maybe you need to remember who you are when you're not performing, not producing, not proving yourself to anyone." "And who is that?" Celeste asked, her voice barely above a whisper. "I don't know," Owen admitted, "but I think she might be someone worth knowing." Celeste let out a shaky breath. "How did you do it?" she asked. "When your wife left, when you had to start over, how did you figure out how to keep going?" Owen thought about that night 3 years ago, reading that note, feeling his entire world collapse. He thought about the weeks that followed, the fear and confusion and desperate determination to be enough for Lily. "I didn't have a choice," he said finally. "I had a little girl who needed me, so I had to figure it out. I had to let go of who I thought I was supposed to be and just focus on being who she needed." He paused. "But it was hard. Some days it still is. I still wonder if I'm doing enough, being enough." "You are," Celeste said with sudden fierceness. "Owen, you're an amazing father. Lily is happy and loved and secure. You've built this whole life for her out of nothing but love and determination. Don't you see how extraordinary that is?" The conviction in her voice surprised him. "Thank you," he said quietly, "but it doesn't always feel extraordinary. Most days it just feels like survival." "Maybe that's what extraordinary looks like," Celeste said. "Not grand gestures, just showing up every day and doing the work and loving someone enough to keep trying." They sat in comfortable silence for a while, listening to the crickets, watching fireflies blink in the growing darkness. "Can I ask you something?" Celeste said eventually. "Of course." "Why did you let me stay? After everything at the creek? After I accused you of—" She couldn't finish the sentence. "You had every reason to turn me away. Why didn't you?" Owen considered the question carefully. "Because I know what it's like to be desperate and have nowhere to go," he said. "And because turning away someone in need isn't who I want to be, isn't who I want Lily to see me being." He looked at Celeste. "And maybe because I saw something in you that reminded me of myself, back when everything fell apart. That look of someone who's been holding it together so hard for so long that they've forgotten how to let go." "I don't know how to let go," Celeste whispered. "Maybe you don't have to know how," Owen said. "Maybe you just have to stop holding on so tight." A tear slipped down Celeste's cheek. She wiped it away quickly, then laughed, a watery, self-deprecating sound. "I'm sorry. I'm not a crier." "It's okay to cry," Owen said gently. "It's okay to not be okay." "Is it?" Celeste looked at him with something like desperation. Because I feel like I've spent my entire adult life pretending to be okay, pretending I had it all together, and I'm so tired of pretending, Owen. I'm so tired. The admission seemed to break something in her. She covered her face with her hands and cried, really cried, the kind of crying that came from somewhere deep and long suppressed. Owen sat there, not touching her, not offering platitudes, just being present while she let it out. When the tears finally slowed, Celeste lowered her hands, her face blotchy and red. "I'm sorry," she said again. "Don't be. I just ruined your peaceful evening by having a breakdown on your porch." "You didn't ruin anything," Owen said firmly. "You're allowed to have feelings, Celeste. You're allowed to be human." She laughed shakily. "I think I forgot that was allowed." "Well, consider this your reminder." They sat together as full darkness fell, and slowly Celeste's breathing evened out, her shoulders relaxed. When she spoke again, her voice was calmer. "What am I going to do, Owen? I can't keep living the way I have been, but I don't know how to live any other way." "You don't have to figure it all out tonight," Owen said, "or this week, or this month. You just have to take the next step, and then the one after that." "What's the next step?" Owen smiled. "For tonight, get some sleep. Tomorrow we'll teach Lily how to collect eggs from the chickens without getting pecked, and then we'll see what comes after that." "Just one day at a time?" "Just one day at a time." Celeste nodded slowly. "I think I can do that." "I know you can." She stood, brushing off her borrowed clothes. She'd changed back into Owen's shirt and sweatpants after getting flour all over her own things. "Thank you, Owen, for everything. For saving me, for letting me stay, for—" She gestured vaguely. "For being you." "You're welcome." She started to go inside, then paused at the door. "Owen?" "Yeah?" "I'm glad I fell in that creek," she said softly. "Even with everything that happened after, I'm glad it brought me here." Before he could respond, she disappeared inside, leaving Owen alone with the fireflies and the night and the strange, complicated warmth spreading through his chest. He sat there for a long time after she'd gone, thinking about the woman sleeping in his living room, about the unexpected ways lives could intersect and change. He thought about Lily's easy acceptance of this stranger, about the way Celeste had looked making cookies with flour in her hair and a genuine smile on her face. He thought about the fact that in 2 days, 3 at most, she would be gone, back to her corporate world, her efficiency reports, her empty apartment. And he thought about how much he would miss her when she left. The realization should have worried him, should have sent up warning flags and caution signs. He barely knew this woman. She was from a different world, lived a different life. There was no future here, no possibility of anything beyond these few stolen days. But knowing that didn't change the truth of it. Somewhere between pulling her from the creek and teaching her to fish, between watching her cry and hearing her laugh, Owen Mercer had started to care about Celeste Rowan, and he had no idea what to do about that. Inside, Owen found himself standing in the middle of his quiet kitchen, unsure of what to do with the restless energy coursing through him. He washed the dinner dishes by hand, even though they could have waited until morning, needing something to occupy his hands, his mind. Through the doorway, he could see Celeste on the pull-out couch, her back to him as she arranged the blankets. Even from behind, he could see the exhaustion in the slope of her shoulders. She turned suddenly, catching him watching, and for a moment neither of them looked away. "Good night, Owen," she said softly. "Good night, Celeste." He retreated to his bedroom and lay in the darkness, listening to the house settle around him. From the living room came the soft sounds of Celeste moving, getting comfortable. From Lily's room, the steady breathing of his sleeping daughter. These were good sounds, peaceful sounds, but tonight they filled him with a restlessness he couldn't name. Sleep, when it finally came, brought dreams of dark water and reaching hands, of a woman's face breaking the surface, of holding on tight and refusing to let go. Morning arrived too bright and too early. Owen woke to find sunlight streaming through his window and the smell of something burning. He bolted out of bed and rushed to the kitchen to find Celeste standing over the stove, waving a dish towel at a smoking pan while Lily sat at the table, giggling uncontrollably. "I was trying to make pancakes," Celeste said, looking simultaneously embarrassed and amused. "Turns out there's a difference between corporate strategy and breakfast strategy." The first batch turned black, Lily announced gleefully. Like coal. They did, Celeste admitted, dumping the charred remains into the trash. I may have gotten distracted answering an email and forgotten they were cooking. Owen moved to the stove and turned down the heat, then glanced at his laptop, still open on the counter, the screen showing what looked like a very lengthy message. I thought you were taking a break from work, he said carefully. Celeste had the grace to look guilty. I am. This was just one urgent thing that... She stopped, hearing herself. You're right. I'm sorry. Old habits. She closed the laptop with a decisive click, then looked at Owen with determination. Teach me to make pancakes properly, she said. No distractions this time. I want to learn. So Owen showed her the right temperature for the griddle, how to tell when bubbles meant it was time to flip, the way to slide the spatula underneath without tearing. Celeste watched intently, asking questions, taking mental notes like she was preparing for an exam. Her second attempt came out golden and fluffy. I did it! She looked absurdly proud of herself, holding up the plate like a trophy. You did great, Owen said, and meant it. They ate breakfast together, Celeste's properly made pancakes alongside Owen's animal-shaped ones, and Lily regaled them with an elaborate plan for the day that involved at least 1 million adventures. First we gotta check the chickens, Lily said seriously, ticking items off on her fingers. Then we gotta water the garden, then fishing, then lunch. Then we gotta show Miss Celeste the tree fort that Daddy built. Then... That's a lot of adventures for one day, Owen said, hiding his smile. We got time, Lily said confidently. Miss Celeste is staying another day, right? She looked at Celeste with such hopeful expectation that Owen saw Celeste's expression soften completely. I am, Celeste said. One more day. Yay, Lily bounced in her seat. This is the best week ever. After breakfast, they ventured out to the chicken coop, a sturdy structure Owen had built himself, complete with nesting boxes and a covered run. Lily took her role as chicken educator very seriously, explaining to Celeste about each hen's personality. This one's Henrietta. She's bossy, and that's Marigold. She's nice, but she talks a lot. And that one's Pepper. She's shy. But they all look the same to me, Celeste admitted, watching the brown hens peck around the run. You gotta look close, Lily said. See, Henrietta has a bigger comb, and Marigold has that white spot on her wing. Celeste knelt down to study the chickens more carefully, and Lily beamed at having such an attentive student. Owen hung back, watching them together, feeling that strange warmth in his chest again. Now we collect the eggs, Lily announced, opening the coop door. But you gotta be gentle or they get mad. She demonstrated, reaching carefully into a nesting box and emerging with a brown egg. Then she gestured for Celeste to try. Celeste approached the task with the same focused intensity she probably brought to corporate negotiations. She reached slowly into the box, her hand closing around an egg. One of the hens, Henrietta probably, squawked indignantly and pecked at her hand. Ow! Celeste jerked back, laughing despite herself. She got me! That means she likes you, Lily said solemnly. Does it really? Celeste asked Owen, examining the small red mark on her hand. Absolutely not, Owen said, grinning. It means she's territorial and you invaded her space. But you'll survive. Good to know I'm tough enough for country living, Celeste said dryly, but she was smiling. They collected 8 eggs total, Celeste getting more confident with each one, even managing to sweet-talk Henrietta into cooperation by the end. Walking back to the house with Lily skipping ahead, carefully carrying the egg basket, Celeste spoke quietly. I never knew this existed, she said, gesturing vaguely at everything. The garden, the chickens, the simple morning routine. This kind of life. I grew up in apartments and condos, went to boarding school, then college, then straight into corporate America. The closest I ever got to a chicken was the grocery store. You're doing fine, Owen said. Am I? She looked at him with genuine uncertainty. Because I feel completely out of my depth. Everything here is so real, so hands-on. I'm used to problems I can solve with spreadsheets and presentations, not chickens that peck me. The chickens peck everyone, Owen assured her. It's how they show affection. She laughed. Is that your way of telling me I'm not special? You're plenty special, Owen said before he could stop himself. Just not to the chickens. Something flickered in Celeste's eyes. Surprise, maybe, or pleasure. Before either of them could examine it too closely, Lily called back to them. Come on, slowpokes, the garden's waiting. The garden was Owen's pride and joy, neat rows of tomatoes and peppers and squash, beans climbing up trellises, herbs in careful patches. He'd started it the first summer after his wife left, needing something to nurture, something to watch grow. Now it fed them through summer and into fall, and teaching Lily about where food came from had become one of their favorite shared activities. Celeste walked between the rows with something like wonder on her face, touching leaves gently, asking questions about everything. How do you know when they're ready to pick? When they smell right and feel right, Owen said, handing her a ripe tomato. Here, try this. She bit into it and her eyes widened. Oh my, that's incredible. That doesn't taste anything like store tomatoes. That's because it's actually ripe, Owen said, not picked green and gassed to turn red. I had no idea, Celeste said, taking another bite. Juice ran down her chin and she laughed, wiping it away with the back of her hand. I've been eating garbage tomatoes my whole life. Well, now you know better, Owen said, gathering a few more ripe ones into a basket. They spent an hour in the garden, Lily helping by eating as many cherry tomatoes as she collected, Celeste learning the difference between weeds and seedlings, between what to water and what to leave alone. By the time they finished, Celeste's borrowed clothes were streaked with dirt and her hair had escaped its ponytail, and she looked more relaxed than Owen had yet seen her. This is therapeutic, she said, brushing soil off her hands. I can see why you do this. It keeps us fed, Owen said. But yeah, there's something peaceful about it too. Something honest. You put in the work, you get the results. No politics, no office drama, just life, Celeste finished softly. Simple, honest life. Their eyes met and held for a moment too long. Owen forced himself to look away first, to grab the basket of vegetables, to move. We should get these inside, he said. Lily, you ready for fishing? Yes! Lily pumped her fist in the air. Miss Celeste, you're going to catch an even bigger fish today. I can feel it. But when they reached the creek, they found the water still running too high and fast from the recent storms. Owen stood on the bank, assessing the current, and shook his head. Not today, baby girl. It's not safe yet. Lily's face fell dramatically. But you promised. I said we'd try, Owen corrected gently. The creek's not ready. Maybe tomorrow. But Miss Celeste is leaving tomorrow. Lily's voice rose, tears threatening. She won't get to fish again. Celeste knelt down to Lily's level. Hey, it's okay. We did fish yesterday, remember? And I caught that huge bass. That was pretty amazing. But I wanted you to catch another one, Lily said, her lower lip trembling. I wanted us to fish together more. I know, sweetheart. Celeste glanced at Owen, something uncertain in her expression. But sometimes things don't work out exactly how we plan. They never do in my life, Lily said with such 5-year-old despair that both adults had to fight not to smile. Tell you what, Owen said, crouching beside them. How about we show Miss Celeste the tree fort instead? You've been wanting to show her all week. Lily considered this, sniffling. Okay, but she's gonna love it. I'm sure I will, Celeste said warmly. The tree fort was Owen's masterpiece, built over the course of last summer in the massive oak tree that dominated their backyard. It had a rope ladder, a small platform with railings, and a roof to keep out rain. Lily considered it her castle, her fortress, her secret hideaway, though she enthusiastically showed it to anyone who would look. Climbing up the rope ladder in her city clothes, Celeste looked both terrified and determined. Owen climbed behind her, ready to catch her if she slipped, trying very hard not to notice how close they were, how he could smell her shampoo again, how his hand brushed against her ankle when he reached up to steady the ladder. They emerged onto the platform and Lily immediately launched into tour guide mode, showing Celeste the telescope, a paper towel tube, the treasure chest, a shoebox full of rocks and feathers, and the emergency supplies, 3 granola bars and a juice box. This is amazing, Lily, Celeste said, settling cross-legged on the platform. You could survive up here for days. I know, Lily said proudly. Daddy made it super strong so it won't fall down ever. Your daddy is very talented, Celeste said, and when her eyes met Owen's, there was something warm in them that made his breath catch. They sat up in the tree fort for over an hour, Lily telling stories and Celeste asking questions, Owen watching them both and feeling the strangest sensation, like this moment mattered, like it was something he should hold on to, remember, treasure. Eventually, Lily got distracted by a bird's nest in a nearby branch and scrambled partway down the ladder to get a better look, leaving Owen and Celeste alone on the platform. "She's going to miss you when you leave," Owen said quietly. "I'm going to miss her too," Celeste said, then softer. "I'm going to miss both of you." "You don't have to go," Owen said before he could stop himself. "Tomorrow, I mean. You could stay another day, or—" He stopped, uncertain how to finish that sentence. Or what? Or forever? That was insane. They barely knew each other. She had a whole life waiting for her. But Celeste was looking at him with such intensity that he couldn't look away. "Owen," she said slowly, "what are we doing here?" "I don't know," he admitted. "I just know I'm not ready for you to leave yet." "I'm not ready to leave either," she said, "but I have to. You know I have to. I have that presentation on Monday, and my car should be ready tomorrow, and my whole life is waiting for me back there." "Is it?" Owen asked. "Your life? Or just your job?" Celeste flinched like he'd struck her. "That's not fair," she said. "Maybe not," Owen agreed. "But it's true, isn't it? You said yourself you have no family, no real friends, nothing but work. So what exactly are you rushing back to?" "My career," Celeste said, but her voice wavered. "Everything I've built, everything I've worked for." "At what cost?" Owen pressed. He knew he should stop, knew he was overstepping, but he couldn't seem to help himself. "You were drowning, Celeste, and I don't just mean in the creek. You've been drowning in that life for years, and you're so used to it, you don't even realize you're going under." "And what?" Celeste's voice rose, anger sparking in her eyes. "I should just throw it all away? Stay here and play house with you and Lily? Pretend I can be someone I'm not?" "I'm not asking you to be someone you're not," Owen said. "I'm asking if maybe you've forgotten who you really are." They stared at each other, the air between them crackling with tension and things unsaid. Lily's voice calling from below broke the moment. "Daddy, Miss Celeste, come see the baby birds!" Celeste climbed down the ladder without another word, and Owen followed, his heart hammering, wondering if he'd just ruined everything. Lunch was quiet, the earlier ease between them replaced by careful politeness. Lily chattered obliviously, but Owen and Celeste barely spoke to each other, both lost in their own thoughts. After lunch, Celeste excused herself to make phone calls, and Owen took Lily out to the workshop, needing distance, needing to work with his hands and let his mind settle. But his mind wouldn't settle. He kept replaying the conversation in the tree fort, kept seeing the hurt in Celeste's eyes when he'd challenged her. He'd had no right to say those things, to push her like that. She was a grown woman who could make her own choices about her life. Who was he to judge? But he couldn't shake the feeling that she was making the wrong choice, that walking away from this, from the peace she'd found here, from the glimpses of real happiness he'd seen on her face, would be a mistake she'd regret. "Daddy, you're being quiet," Lily observed, watching him sand a piece of wood with more force than necessary. "Sorry, baby girl, just thinking." "About Miss Celeste?" Owen looked at his daughter sharply. "Why would you say that?" Lily shrugged with the wisdom of someone much older. "Because you look at her the way Prince Charming looks at Cinderella in my book. Like she's special." "She is special," Owen said carefully. "She's our friend." "Is she going to be our friend forever?" Lily asked. "Or just for right now?" Owen's throat tightened. "I don't know, sweetheart. I want her to stay," Lily said simply. "She makes good pancakes now, and she's funny, and she doesn't get mad when I ask lots of questions." "I know you do, baby, but Miss Celeste has her own life, her own home. She can't just stay here forever." "Why not?" Lily asked with the perfect logic of childhood. "We have room. She could sleep on the couch. Or we could build her a room. You're good at building things." Owen had to smile despite everything. "It's not that simple, Lily." "Grown-ups always say that," Lily complained. "But I think grown-ups make things too complicated." Out of the mouths of babes, Owen thought. That evening, after Lily had been tucked into bed with extra stories and extra hugs, Owen found Celeste on the porch again. She was sitting on the steps, her arms wrapped around her knees, staring out at the darkening yard. He almost didn't join her, uncertain of his welcome after their argument. But something pulled him forward, made him sit down beside her, leaving a careful foot of space between them. For a long moment, neither spoke. Then Celeste said quietly, "I called about my car." It's ready. They can deliver it tomorrow morning. Owen's heart sank. That's good. That's what you wanted. Is it? She laughed without humor. I don't even know anymore, Owen. You were right earlier, about all of it. I have been drowning. I've been so busy surviving that I forgot to actually live. She turned to look at him, and in the dim porch light, he could see tears on her cheeks. These past few days with you and Lily, they've been the happiest I've been in years. Maybe ever. And that's terrifying because it means I've wasted so much time, built my whole life on the wrong foundation, and I don't know how to fix that. You don't have to fix it all at once, Owen said gently, echoing his own words from the night before. You just have to take the next step. But what is the next step? Celeste asked desperately. Go back to my job and pretend this never happened? Quit everything and start over? I have responsibilities, obligations, a lease on my apartment, clients depending on me. And what about you? Owen interrupted. Who's depending on you to take care of yourself? Who's making sure you're okay? That's my job, Celeste said. No one else is going to do it. Maybe they would if you let them, Owen said. Maybe that's the problem. You've been alone so long, you've forgotten that you don't have to be. She looked at him with such raw vulnerability that Owen's careful restraint finally broke. He reached out and took her hand, lacing his fingers through hers. She didn't pull away. Instead, she held on tight, like he was the only solid thing in a spinning world. I'm scared, Owen, she whispered. I'm scared that if I let go of my old life, I'll have nothing. I'll be nothing. You could never be nothing, Owen said fiercely. Celeste, in the few days I've known you, I've seen you laugh with my daughter, learn to fish, burn pancakes and then make perfect ones, get pecked by chickens, cry on my porch, and show more courage than most people manage in a lifetime. You're smart and funny and kind and so strong. Walking away from a job that's killing you wouldn't make you nothing. It would make you free. Free to do what? She asked. I don't even know what I want anymore. Then stay, Owen said, the words tumbling out before he could second-guess them. Not forever, not even for long if you don't want to, but stay a little longer. Give yourself time to figure it out. No pressure, no expectations. Just stay. Celeste stared at him, her hand still in his, her eyes searching his face. You mean that? She said wonderingly. You actually mean it? I do. Why? She asked. Owen, you barely know me. Why would you? Because I want to know you, Owen said simply. Because Lily loves you already, and you make her smile. Because I haven't felt this. He stopped, struggling for words. I haven't felt this alive in 3 years, and maybe that makes me selfish. Maybe I'm asking too much, but I don't want you to leave. Not yet. Celeste's breath hitched. She squeezed his hand tighter. I have to go back, she said, but there was no conviction in it. At least for a few days. I have to handle the presentation, tie up loose ends, figure out what comes next. Okay, Owen said, trying to ignore the crushing disappointment in his chest. I understand. But, Celeste continued, and Owen's heart leaped at that single word. But maybe I could come back after, if you wanted me to. I want you to, Owen said immediately. We both do. She smiled then, a real smile that transformed her whole face. Okay, I'll go handle things, and then I'll come back. Just for a visit, just to see, Owen agreed, not daring to hope for more than that. They sat there on the porch steps, hands clasped, watching fireflies dance in the darkness. And for the first time since Celeste had knocked on his door during the storm, Owen let himself imagine what it might be like if she really did come back. If this strange, unexpected connection between them could grow into something more. It was a dangerous hope, fragile as spun glass. But it was hope nonetheless, and Owen held on to it with both hands. The next morning arrived far too quickly. Owen woke to the sound of a car pulling into his driveway, the rental company delivering Celeste's temporary vehicle. He lay in bed for a moment, listening to Celeste thank the delivery driver, hearing the sound of car doors and paperwork and the mundane reality of departure. When he finally emerged from his bedroom, he found Celeste in the kitchen, already dressed in her own clothes, now clean and pressed, looking every inch the corporate professional she'd been when she'd first stumbled into his life. Her hair was pulled back sleekly, Her posture was perfect. The transformation was startling. But when she saw him, her professional mask slipped and he saw the real Celeste underneath, uncertain, sad, reluctant to leave. "The car's here," she said unnecessarily. "I heard." They looked at each other across the kitchen, neither sure what to say. 4 days ago they'd been strangers. Now the thought of her leaving felt like losing something vital. Lily saved them from the awkwardness, padding into the kitchen in her pajamas and immediately bursting into tears when she saw Celeste's suitcase by the door. "You're leaving!" she wailed, running to Celeste and wrapping her arms around her waist. "I don't want you to go." Celeste knelt down and pulled Lily into a tight hug, her own eyes bright with tears. "I know, sweetheart. I don't want to go either, but I have to take care of some work things." "Work is stupid," Lily said with passionate conviction. Celeste laughed wetly. "Sometimes it is, but I promise I'll come back and visit soon, okay? I promise." "Really, truly promise?" Lily demanded, pulling back to look at her seriously. "Really, truly promise," Celeste said, holding up her pinky finger. They pinky swore solemnly, and then Lily threw herself into Celeste's arms again, holding on like she might disappear if Lily let go. Owen watched them, his throat tight, his heart aching. When Celeste finally stood up, Lily still clinging to her hand, she looked at him, and he saw his own feelings reflected in her eyes. Loss and hope and fear all tangled together. "I should go," she said quietly. "I have a long drive ahead." "Right, of course." Owen forced himself to move, to help her with her bag, to walk her out to the rental car sitting in his driveway. At the car door, Celeste paused. She turned to face them both, Owen and Lily standing together on the porch, and for a moment no one moved. Then she crossed back to them in 3 quick steps and hugged Lily first, fierce and tight. "Be good for your daddy," she whispered, "and keep practicing your fishing." "I will," Lily promised. Then Celeste straightened and looked at Owen. For a heartbeat, they just stood there. Then, on impulse, she rose on her toes and kissed his cheek, a brief, soft touch that sent electricity through his entire body. "Thank you," she said quietly, "for everything, for saving me, for all of it." "Come back," Owen said, his voice rough. "Please come back." "I will," she promised. "I don't know when, but I will." Then she was in the car, starting the engine, backing down the driveway. Owen and Lily stood on the porch and watched her go, watched the rental car disappear down Miller's Road, taking Celeste back to her other life. Lily was crying quietly. Owen pulled her close, his own vision blurring. "She'll come back, Daddy, right?" Lily asked in a small voice. "She promised." "She promised," Owen agreed, praying it was true. They went inside and the house felt empty, despite the fact that Celeste had only been there a few days. Her absence was a physical thing, a hollow space that made the rooms feel too quiet, too still. Owen tried to distract Lily with activities. They checked the chickens, worked in the garden, made lunch, but everything reminded them of Celeste. The chickens made Lily remember teaching her to collect eggs. The garden made Owen think of the wonder on her face when she'd tasted a real tomato. Lunch felt wrong without her sitting at their table. That evening, after Lily had finally cried herself to sleep, Owen sat alone in his workshop and tried to work on the jewelry box he needed to finish. But his hands felt clumsy, his mind elsewhere. He kept thinking about Celeste driving back to the city, back to her high-rise apartment and her demanding job. He wondered if she'd already forgotten them, if the promise to return had been just words to make leaving easier. But then he remembered the way she'd looked at him on the porch, the way her hand had felt in his, the genuine tears in her eyes when she'd hugged Lily goodbye. She'd meant it. He had to believe she'd meant it. His phone rang, startling him out of his thoughts. He didn't recognize the number, but he answered anyway. "Owen?" Celeste's voice came through, and his heart leaped. "I'm sorry. I should have asked for your number before I left, but I remembered it from when you let me use your phone, and I wanted to call, to make sure you and Lily are okay." "We're okay," Owen said, which was only partially true. "Missing you, but okay. How's the drive?" "Long, lonely," she paused. "I keep thinking about this morning, about leaving, and Owen, I can't stop thinking about what you said, about being free." "Yeah?" I spent the whole drive making lists in my head, Celeste said, and he could hear the smile in her voice. Old habit, I know. But these were different lists, not about work or clients or efficiency metrics, about what I actually want. What would make me happy? What's on the lists? Owen asked softly. You, she said simply, and Lily. Teaching her to fish, making terrible pancakes, getting pecked by chickens, sitting on your porch and actually breathing for the first time in years. That's on my list, Owen, all of it. Owen closed his eyes, gripping the phone tighter. Then come back, he said. As soon as you can, come back. I will, she promised. I just need to handle this presentation, have some hard conversations with my boss, figure out if I can actually do this, change everything, walk away from 15 years of, You can, Owen said with absolute conviction. I know you can. She was quiet for a moment, then, How do you have so much faith in me? You barely know me. I know enough, Owen said. I know you're brave enough to let yourself drown rather than live half a life. I know you're strong enough to admit when something isn't working. And I know that whatever you decide, you'll make it work. Because that's who you are. He heard her breath catch. I have to go, she said finally. I'm almost at my apartment and I need to focus on driving. But Owen? Yeah? Thank you. For believing in me. For seeing me. The real me. Always, he said. After they hung up, Owen sat in the quiet workshop, hope blooming in his chest like spring flowers after a long winter. She'd called. She'd promised to come back. She was thinking about changing her life. It wasn't a guarantee. There were 1,000 things that could go wrong, 1,000 reasons why she might decide to stay in her old life after all. But for tonight, it was enough. The days after Celeste left crawled by with agonizing slowness. Owen tried to maintain their normal routine. Mornings with the chickens, afternoons in the workshop, evenings reading stories to Lily, but everything felt muted, like someone had turned down the color and volume on their lives. Lily asked about Celeste constantly. When was she coming back? Could they call her? Did she miss them? Owen answered as best he could, but the truth was he didn't know. Celeste had called that first night, but since then there'd been only a handful of text messages, each one brief and apologetic. Presentation went well. Exhausted. Meeting with my boss tomorrow. Nervous. Thinking about you both. Miss you. Owen read each message a dozen times, searching for hidden meanings, for clues about what she was thinking, what she'd decided. But the words gave nothing away. By the 4th day, doubt had begun to creep in. Maybe she'd changed her mind. Maybe being back in her element had reminded her of what she'd be giving up. Maybe the simple life that had seemed so appealing during a few stolen days now looked provincial and limiting in the harsh light of reality. He was in the workshop, sanding the same piece of wood for the 3rd time, when his phone rang. This time, he recognized the number immediately. Celeste? Owen. Her voice sounded strange, tight, strained. I need to tell you something. His heart plummeted. This was it. The call where she explained that she'd made a mistake, that she couldn't come back, that their brief connection had been nothing more than a momentary escape from her real life. Okay, he managed. I quit my job. Owen froze, the phone pressed to his ear, certain he'd heard wrong. You... what? I quit. Now he could hear something else in her voice. Not strain, but barely contained excitement. I went into my boss's office this morning, planning to just ask for some time off. Maybe negotiate a reduced schedule. But then he started talking about the next project, this massive restructuring that would mean 6 months of 70-hour weeks, and I couldn't do it, Owen. I looked at him and I said, I quit, just like that. No notice, no negotiation, just done. Celeste. Owen didn't know whether to congratulate her or worry about her. Are you okay? I mean, financially, legally, are you... I'm fine, she said, and she was laughing now. I have savings, and honestly, they were so shocked they agreed to a generous severance package just to avoid any HR drama. And I feel, Owen, I feel lighter than I have in years, like I've been carrying this enormous weight, and I just set it down. That's amazing, Owen said, his own smile spreading. I'm so proud of you. Don't be proud yet, Celeste said. I might be having a complete breakdown. I just torched my entire career on an impulse. It wasn't an impulse, Owen said firmly. You've been thinking about this for years. You just finally had the courage to act on it. She was quiet for a moment. Then, softly, I want to come back, Owen. Not just for a visit. I want to stay for a while. Really stay. Figure out what comes next. If that's still okay with you. Owen's heart was hammering so hard he could barely breathe. It's more than okay, he said. When? Is tomorrow too soon? Celeste asked. I know it's fast, but I don't want to lose momentum, and I miss you both so much it physically hurts. Tomorrow is perfect, Owen said. Lily's going to lose her mind. Good loss of mind or bad loss of mind? The best kind, Owen assured her. After they hung up, Owen stood in his workshop for a solid 5 minutes, just grinning at nothing. Then he went to find Lily. She was in the backyard, pushing her dolls on the tire swing and singing a melancholy song about missing people. When she saw Owen approaching, she looked up hopefully. Was that Miss Celeste? It was, Owen said, crouching down to her level. And I have news. Good news? Lily asked cautiously. The best news. Miss Celeste is coming back tomorrow, and she's going to stay for a while this time. Lily's face transformed. She let out a shriek of pure joy and launched herself at Owen, nearly knocking him over. Really? 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 Really, really, really? Owen confirmed, laughing as she bounced in his arms. We got to clean the house and make cookies and pick flowers for her room and Lily was talking so fast the words tumbled over each other. Whoa, slow down, Owen said, but he was grinning. We have until tomorrow. But yes, let's make the house nice for her. They spent the rest of the day in a flurry of activity. Lily insisted on cleaning every surface until it gleamed, arranging and rearranging the pillows on the pull-out couch, picking wildflowers from the edge of the property, and putting them in a mason jar on the coffee table. Owen found himself doing things he'd never bothered with before, washing windows, sweeping the porch, even attempting to tame the slightly overgrown bushes by the front door. That evening, after Lily had finally exhausted herself and gone to bed, Owen sat on the porch and let himself think about what was really happening. Celeste was coming back. Not for a weekend, not for a quick visit, but to stay. To figure things out. To see if this, whatever this was between them, could be something real. It was terrifying. He'd built his entire life around protecting Lily, around not letting anyone get close enough to hurt them the way her mother had. And now he was opening his door, his home, his heart to someone he'd known for less than a week. But when he thought about Celeste, her laugh, her determination, the way she looked at Lily with such genuine affection, the way she'd kissed his cheek before she left, the fear felt worth it. She arrived just after lunch the next day, pulling into the driveway in the same rental car she'd left in. But this time, when she got out, Owen saw that the back seat and trunk were packed with boxes and suitcases. Lily had been watching out the window for hours. The moment the car appeared, she was out the door and running, her little legs pumping as fast as they could carry her. Miss Celeste! Miss Celeste! You came back! Celeste caught her, swinging her up in a hug, and Owen saw tears streaming down her face as she held Lily close. I told you I would, Celeste said, her voice thick with emotion. I always keep my promises. Owen walked over more slowly, giving them their moment. But when Celeste looked up and met his eyes over Lily's head, the smile she gave him was radiant. Hi, she said simply. Hi yourself, Owen replied. You brought a lot of stuff. I kind of packed up my whole apartment, Celeste admitted sheepishly. Gave notice on the lease, put most of my furniture in storage, and brought the essentials. I'm officially homeless and unemployed. You're not homeless, Lily said seriously, still clinging to Celeste's neck. You live with us now. Celeste looked at Owen questioningly, and he nodded. As long as you need, he confirmed. We'll make it work. They spent the afternoon unloading Celeste's car and helping her settle in. Owen had cleaned out the small spare room, barely more than a closet, really, that had been serving as storage, and set up a twin bed and a dresser. It wasn't much, but it was better than the pull-out couch. Celeste stood in the doorway of the tiny room, and her eyes filled with tears again. You didn't have to do this, she said. You needed a space of your own, Owen said, and Lily and I thought you deserved better than the couch. It's perfect, Celeste said. Owen, it's... Thank you. Over the next few days, they settled into a new rhythm. Celeste helped with morning chores, learning to do them properly this time instead of just observing. She made breakfast while Owen worked in the shop, and the three of them ate together, Lily chattering about everything and nothing. Afternoons were spent in the garden or exploring the property or working on small projects around the house. And slowly, naturally, Celeste became part of their life. She was there when Lily skinned her knee climbing a tree, cleaning the wound and applying a bandage while making silly voices to distract from the sting. She was there for bedtime stories, sitting on the edge of Lily's bed and reading with dramatic flair. She was there in the quiet evenings on the porch, talking with Owen about everything from philosophy to favorite foods to dreams they'd given up on. It felt right in a way Owen hadn't expected, like she'd always been meant to be there, and they'd just been waiting for her to arrive. But there were adjustments too. Celeste was used to independence, to making her own decisions without consulting anyone. She struggled with the slower pace of country life, with days that didn't have clear objectives or measurable outcomes. More than once, Owen found her on her laptop late at night, scrolling through job listings or industry news, her face drawn with anxiety. "You don't have to figure it all out right now," he told her one evening, finding her on the porch with her computer. "I know," Celeste said, but she didn't close the laptop. I feel like I should be doing something, working towards something. I'm not used to just existing." "Maybe that's what you need right now," Owen suggested. "Permission to just exist for a while." She looked at him, then back at the screen, then deliberately closed the laptop. "You're right," she said. "I'm overthinking. Classic consultant habit." "Want to talk about it?" Owen offered. Celeste was quiet for a moment, then nodded. "I keep wondering if I made a mistake. Not about leaving my job, I know that was right, but about coming here. I'm disrupting your life, imposing on your space, and for what? I don't have a plan, Owen. I don't know what I'm doing here long term." "You're healing," Owen said simply. "You're giving yourself time to remember who you are without the job, without the pressure. That's not nothing." "But I can't stay here forever living off your generosity," Celeste said. "Eventually I need to contribute, to earn my keep somehow." "This isn't a transaction," Owen said gently. "You're not a tenant or an employee. You're—" He paused, searching for the right word. "You're family. That's what you are to us. And family doesn't need to earn their keep." Celeste's breath hitched. "But family," she repeated softly. "I don't think anyone's called me that in a very long time." "Well, get used to it," Owen said, "because Lily's already decided you're her person, and that makes you stuck with us." That night, lying in her small room, Celeste stared at the ceiling and thought about what Owen had said. Family. The word felt strange and warm and terrifying all at once. She'd spent so many years alone, so many years believing she didn't need anyone, that she'd forgotten what it felt like to belong somewhere. But here, in this small house, with this gentle man and his bright, loving daughter, she felt something she'd never felt in her expensive apartment or her corner office. She felt home. The turning point came 2 weeks after Celeste's return. Owen had mentioned in passing that he was behind on several commissions, that he'd been turning down work because he couldn't keep up with demand while also managing the house and taking care of Lily. Celeste had listened thoughtfully, then asked to see his workshop operation. Owen showed her his scattered system, orders written on scraps of paper, supplies stored wherever there was room, no real organization to speak of. He worked on one piece at a time, start to finish, which meant other customers waited weeks or months for their orders. Celeste studied his setup with the focused intensity of someone who'd spent 15 years optimizing business operations. Then she started asking questions. How long did each piece typically take? What were his most common orders? What were his profit margins? Where did he source materials? Owen answered as best he could, bemused by her sudden corporate mode. 3 days later, Celeste presented him with a complete business plan. She'd reorganized his workshop, creating dedicated zones for different tasks. She'd set up a simple ordering system, a scheduling calendar, and a pricing structure that actually reflected the value of his work. She'd even designed business cards and created a basic website showcasing his pieces. "I don't know anything about running a real business," Owen protested, looking at the neatly organized spreadsheets on her laptop. "That's why I'm going to help you," Celeste said. "Owen, you're incredibly talented. Your work is beautiful, but you're undercharging, overworking, and barely making enough to get by. With some basic structure and better marketing, you could triple your income. Maybe more." I don't need to triple my income, Owen said. We get by fine. But wouldn't it be nice to do more than get by? Celeste pressed. To save for Lily's future? To maybe hire some help so you're not working yourself to exhaustion? To actually pay yourself what your time and skill are worth? Owen looked at her, at the excitement in her eyes, the way she was practically vibrating with purpose and energy. This is what you do, isn't it? He said slowly. This is what you're good at, seeing potential and figuring out how to unlock it. Yes, Celeste said. And Owen, you have so much potential. Let me help you, please. I need... She stopped, her professional enthusiasm faltering. I need to feel useful. I need to contribute something. This is what I know how to do. Owen understood then. This wasn't just about his business. This was about Celeste finding her place, her purpose in this new life she was building. Okay, he said. Show me how this works. They spent the next week implementing her plan. Celeste handled all the administrative work, responding to inquiries, scheduling orders, managing inventory. She photographed Owen's finished pieces and posted them on the new website. She reached out to local boutiques and craft stores about carrying his work. Within 2 weeks, Owen had more orders than he'd had in the previous 3 months combined. This is insane, he said, looking at the order list Celeste had printed out. I can't possibly complete all of these. Not alone, Celeste agreed. But I've been thinking about that too. What if we taught some of the simpler pieces to apprentices? Local high school kids looking for after-school work, maybe? You could focus on the complex custom orders while they handle the standard items under your supervision. You've thought of everything, Owen said, shaking his head in amazement. It's what I do, Celeste said simply. Or what I did, or, I don't know, what I'm figuring out how to do differently. She looked uncertain suddenly, and Owen reached out and took her hand. You're amazing, he said. You know that, right? You took my scattered hobby and turned it into a real business in less than a month. It was always a real business, Celeste corrected. I just helped you see that. Their hands were still clasped, and neither of them seemed inclined to let go. They stood in the workshop, surrounded by sawdust and wood and the tools of Owen's trade, and something shifted between them. Celeste, Owen started, then stopped, unsure how to put words to what he was feeling, but Celeste seemed to understand anyway. She squeezed his hand gently. I know, she said softly. Me too. That evening, after Lily was asleep, they sat on the porch, as had become their habit. But tonight felt different, charged with possibility and unspoken feelings. I got a call today, Celeste said quietly. From my old firm. They want me back. They're offering a significant raise, reduced hours, my pick of projects. Owen's heart clenched. What did you tell them? I told them no, Celeste said, and the relief that flooded through Owen was almost painful. I told them I was pursuing other opportunities, which is true. She gestured at the house, the yard, everything. This is my opportunity. Building your business, being part of Lily's life, figuring out who I am when I'm not chasing the next promotion or the next client. That's what I want. Are you sure? Owen asked. That's a big opportunity to turn down. I'm sure, Celeste said firmly. I've never been more sure of anything. Owen, I spent 15 years climbing a ladder that was leaning against the wrong building. I'm not going back to that. I'm building something new, something real, something that actually matters. You matter, Owen said. Not what you do or what you accomplish. You, just you. Celeste's eyes glistened. No one's ever said that to me before. My worth has always been tied to my productivity, my results. The idea that I could just matter, because I exist. Her voice broke. Owen couldn't help himself. He reached out and pulled her close, wrapping his arms around her. She came willingly, burying her face in his shoulder, and they held each other as stars appeared overhead. You matter to us, Owen said quietly into her hair. To Lily, to me, so much more than you probably realize. Celeste pulled back just enough to look up at him, and in the dim porch light, Owen could see everything she was feeling written on her face, hope and fear and affection and need. Owen, she whispered, I think I'm falling in love with you. His heart stopped, then started again, beating twice as fast. I think I'm falling in love with you too, he said. I think I have been since you caught that fish and insisted on setting it free. She laughed, watery but genuine. That's a weird moment to fall in love. All our moments are weird, Owen pointed out. We started with you accusing me of assault and ended up here. Nothing about this has been normal. Normal is overrated, Celeste said. Agreed. They were so close now, their faces inches apart. Owen could feel Celeste's breath on his lips, could see her eyes searching his for permission, for certainty. He kissed her. It was soft and tentative at first, a question more than a statement, but Celeste answered by pressing closer, her hands coming up to frame his face, and the kiss deepened into something real and right, and absolutely certain. When they finally pulled apart, both breathing hard, Celeste was smiling. I can't believe this is my life now, she said wonderingly. 3 weeks ago, I was drowning in a creek. Now I'm kissing you on your porch and planning business strategies for a woodworking operation and teaching a 5-year-old about chickens. It's insane. Good insane or bad insane? Owen asked, echoing her words from weeks ago. The best insane, Celeste said, and kissed him again. Over the following weeks, their relationship shifted and settled into something comfortable and right. They were careful around Lily, not wanting to confuse or overwhelm her, but Lily seemed to sense the change anyway. Are you and Miss Celeste boyfriend and girlfriend now? She asked Owen one morning with the directness of childhood. Owen considered how to answer. We care about each other very much, he said carefully. Is that okay with you? Lily thought about it seriously. Is she going to stay forever? I don't know about forever, Owen said honestly, but she's planning to stay for a long while. Would that be okay? Yes, Lily said emphatically. I want her to stay forever and ever, and we can be a real family. Owen's throat tightened. We're already a real family, baby girl. You and me. I know, Lily said. But it's even better with Miss Celeste. She makes us more. Out of the mouths of babes, Owen thought again. That afternoon, as they worked together in the garden, Owen planting, Celeste weeding, Lily supervising, Owen watched his daughter explain to Celeste the importance of talking to the tomato plants to help them grow, and his heart felt so full he thought it might burst. This was what happiness looked like. Not grand gestures or impressive achievements, but quiet moments in the dirt. Hands working together, laughter mixing with birdsong, the easy comfort of people who belong together. What are you smiling about? Celeste asked, looking up from her weeding and catching his expression. This, Owen said simply. All of this. You. She smiled back, dirt smudged on her cheek, her hair escaping its ponytail, looking nothing like the polished professional who'd stumbled into his life, and everything like the woman who'd chosen to stay. Me too, she said. I'm happy too. That night, after Lily was asleep, Owen found Celeste at the kitchen table with her laptop open. But instead of job listings or industry news, she was looking at local community college websites. What are you researching? He asked, sitting beside her. Teaching, Celeste said. Business courses. The community college has an entrepreneurship program, and they're looking for adjunct instructors. I thought, maybe I could teach what I know. Help other people build their businesses, pursue their dreams. Use my skills for something that actually helps people, instead of just padding corporate profits. That sounds perfect for you, Owen said warmly. You think? Celeste looked uncertain. I've never taught before. You taught me, Owen pointed out. You're teaching Lily constantly, and you're good at it. You explain things clearly, you're patient, you genuinely want people to succeed. You'd be an amazing teacher. Celeste leaned against him, and Owen wrapped his arm around her shoulders. Thank you, she said quietly, for believing in me, for giving me space to figure this out. Always, Owen said, pressing a kiss to the top of her head. They sat like that for a while, comfortable and close, and Owen thought about how much his life had changed in just a few short weeks, how a single moment, diving into a creek to save a drowning woman, had led to all of this, to love, to partnership, to a fuller, richer life than he'd ever imagined possible. It hadn't been easy. There had been misunderstandings and fears and hard conversations. There would be more challenges ahead. He knew that. But looking at Celeste, feeling the solid warmth of her against his side, Owen knew with absolute certainty that they would face those challenges together. And that made all the difference. The teaching position came through 6 weeks later, and Celeste accepted it with a joy that transformed her entire demeanor. She would be teaching 2 evening classes a week at the community college, Introduction to Business Strategy and Small Business Development, starting in the fall semester. It wasn't the high-powered career she'd left behind, but when she talked about her lesson plans, about helping students build their own futures, her eyes lit up in a way they never had when she'd discussed corporate restructuring. "I'm actually excited about Mondays," she told Owen one evening, laughing at herself. "Who gets excited about Mondays?" "Someone who loves what they're doing," Owen said, pulling her close. "Someone who's finally doing work that matters to them." "It's more than that," Celeste said, resting her head on his shoulder. "It's having balance. I work on my classes a few hours a day, help with your business, spend time with Lily, and still have energy left over to actually live my life. I forgot that was possible." Owen kissed the top of her head, breathing in the scent of her shampoo mixed with sawdust from the workshop. She'd been helping him sand pieces earlier, insisting on learning every aspect of his craft, even though her business expertise was already invaluable. "I'm proud of you," he said quietly, "for having the courage to start over." "I couldn't have done it without you," Celeste said. "Without this place, this life you built. You showed me what actually matters." They were interrupted by Lily calling from her bedroom, asking for water, and Celeste went to handle it without hesitation. Owen listened to their voices, Lily's sleepy chatter about a dream she'd had, Celeste's gentle responses, and felt gratitude wash over him. This was his life now, not just him and Lily against the world, but the three of them together, a family in every way that mattered. But there was still one conversation they hadn't had, one question hanging unspoken between them. What happened next? They'd fallen into this comfortable routine, but they'd never actually discussed the future. Never put words to what they both felt, what they were building together. Owen knew he needed to address it, but every time he started to bring it up, fear stopped him. What if putting words to it broke the spell? What if asking for more pushed her away? The decision was made for him on a Saturday morning in late summer. Owen woke to find Celeste's side of the bed empty. They'd stopped pretending to maintain separate rooms weeks ago, though they were still careful about Lily's awareness. He found her in the kitchen, but she wasn't making breakfast. She was sitting at the table with her phone in her hand, her face pale. "What's wrong?" Owen asked immediately, crossing to her. Celeste looked up, and he saw tears tracking down her cheeks. "My mother called," she said, her voice hollow. "I haven't spoken to her in 3 years. Not since she told me I was wasting my life chasing career success instead of giving her grandchildren." Owen sat down beside her, waiting. "She's sick," Celeste continued, her voice shaking. "Cancer, stage 3. She's starting treatment next week, and she wants to see me. Asked if I could come home for a few days." "Of course you should go," Owen said immediately. "I don't want to," Celeste said, and the admission seemed to pain her. "We've never had a good relationship. She was always critical, always disappointed in my choices. When I told her about my career, she said I was being selfish. When I said I didn't want children, she acted like I was betraying her. We fought constantly until I finally just stopped calling." "But she's your mother," Owen said gently. "And she's sick. You'd regret it if you didn't go." Celeste nodded miserably. "I know. I don't want to leave. This is the first time in my life I've felt settled, happy, and now I have to go back to all that dysfunction and criticism and—" "Hey," Owen interrupted, taking her hand. "You're not the same person you were 3 years ago. You're stronger now, more sure of yourself. And you're not going back to your old life. You're just visiting. You'll come back here, to us." "You promise?" Celeste asked, sounding young and uncertain. "I promise," Owen said. "This is your home now. We'll be here when you get back." She left 2 days later, and the house felt empty without her. Lily moped around, asking constantly when Celeste would return. Owen did his best to keep them both busy, but he missed her with an intensity that surprised him. Her laugh, her presence, the way she hummed while she worked, the feel of her hand in his. She called every night, her voice strained and exhausted. Her mother was as difficult as she'd remembered, critical of Celeste's appearance, her life choices, everything. The only bright spot was that her mother's partner, a kind woman named Patricia, seemed to actually care about both of them and was trying to mediate the tension. "I don't know how much longer I can do this," Celeste said on the 4th night, her voice cracking. "She spent an hour today telling me how I've wasted my life. how I should have gotten married and had children instead of playing businesswoman. And the worst part is, a year ago, I would have believed her. I would have thought she was right. But you don't believe her now, Owen said. It wasn't a question. No, Celeste said firmly. I know what I have is real. What we have is real. I'm not wasting my life, Owen. For the first time, I'm actually living it. Then hold on to that, Owen said. Don't let her take it from you. The breakthrough came on day 6. Celeste called at a different time than usual, midday instead of evening, and her voice was thick with tears. Owen, I need to tell you something. His heart clenched. What happened? My mother and I had it out, a real, brutal, honest conversation. I told her everything, about my job, about quitting, about you and Lily, about being happy for the first time in years, and Celeste's voice broke. She cried, Owen. She actually cried and said she was sorry. Said she'd pushed me so hard because she wanted me to be successful and secure, and she'd thought that meant career and money, but she'd been wrong. She said she could hear the happiness in my voice when I talked about you and Lily, and she was glad I'd found that. That's wonderful, Owen said, relief flooding through him. It is, Celeste agreed. We're not magically fixed or anything. We have years of hurt to work through, but it's a start. And Owen, she wants to meet you. And Lily, she asked if she could visit once she's feeling better from treatment. Owen's throat tightened. I'd like that. We'd like that. Really? Celeste sounded almost shy. You're not worried about her being difficult, or she's your family, Owen said simply. That makes her our family. We'll figure it out together. Celeste came home 3 days later, and the moment she stepped out of her car, Lily was in her arms, chattering a mile a minute about everything she'd missed. Owen hung back, giving them their moment. But when Celeste looked up at him over Lily's head, the love in her eyes took his breath away. That evening, after Lily was asleep, they sat on the porch in their usual spot. Celeste was quiet, leaning against Owen, his arm around her shoulders. I realized something while I was gone, she said finally. What's that? That this isn't temporary for me anymore, if it ever was. She sat up and turned to face him. Owen, I don't want to keep pretending this is just some extended break from real life. This is my real life. You and Lily, you're my real life, and I want it to stay that way. Owen's heart was pounding. What are you saying? I'm saying I love you, Celeste said, her voice steady and sure. I love Lily. I love this house and this life we're building together. And I want to make it official. Not just me staying here temporarily, but actually being part of this family, permanently. Owen cupped her face in his hands. I love you too, so much. You've given us more than you could possibly know. You brought light back into this house, into our lives. Then let's make it real, Celeste said. Let's stop dancing around it and actually commit to this. Are you asking me to marry you? Owen asked, a smile tugging at his lips. Celeste laughed, a little watery. Maybe I am. Or maybe I'm asking you to ask me. I don't know the proper protocol here. There is no protocol, Owen said. There's just us and what we want. And I want you, forever, if you'll have me. Forever sounds perfect, Celeste whispered, and kissed him. They decided to wait a few months before actually getting married, wanting to give themselves time to be absolutely sure, to let Lily adjust to the idea, to make sure they were building on solid ground and not just caught up in emotion. But the decision had been made, the commitment spoken aloud, and that changed everything. Celeste officially moved her belongings out of storage and into Owen's house, their house now. They combined their finances, made plans for the future, talked about everything from retirement to whether they might want to have a child together someday. I never wanted children before, Celeste admitted one evening. I thought they would interfere with my career, complicate my life. But being with Lily, being her mother in all the ways that matter, it's changed me. I think I might want that someday. If you do. I'd love that, Owen said honestly, but I also love what we have now. Whatever we decide, we'll decide together. The teaching position turned out to be everything Celeste had hoped for and more. Her students loved her real-world experience, her no-nonsense approach, her genuine investment in their success. She started mentoring several of them outside of class, helping them launch their own small businesses, and Owen watched her bloom in ways he'd never imagined. One of her students was a young single mother named Maria who was trying to start a catering business while working two jobs. Celeste not only helped her with the business plan, but also connected her with Owen, who built her a custom display case at cost. 6 months later, Maria's business was thriving, and she credited Celeste with changing her life. "This is what you were meant to do," Owen told Celeste when she came home glowing from Maria's grand opening. "Not maximizing corporate profits, but actually helping people build better lives." "I know," Celeste said, wonder in her voice. "I actually know that now. I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be." Owen's business was thriving too, thanks to Celeste's organizational skills and marketing expertise. They'd hired 2 apprentices, local teenagers who came after school to learn the craft, and expanded into custom furniture pieces that sold for prices Owen never would have dared charge before. "You're undervaluing your talent," Celeste had told him firmly when he'd balked at her suggested pricing. "People will pay for quality, for artistry, for something made with care instead of mass-produced. Trust me on this." She'd been right. Orders poured in, and for the first time in his life, Owen had actual savings. Enough to think about Lily's college fund, about home repairs, about maybe even taking a real vacation. "We could go somewhere," Celeste suggested one evening, showing him pictures on her phone. "Just the 3 of us. Maybe the beach?" Lily would love learning to swim in the ocean. You want to travel?" Owen asked, surprised. "After spending years on the road for work?" "This would be different," Celeste said. "This would be for fun, for memories, for showing Lily the world. I spent so many years traveling for all the wrong reasons. I'd like to do it the right way this time." They went to the coast that summer, renting a small beach house for a week. Owen watched Celeste teach Lily to look for shells, to jump waves, to build elaborate sand castles. He watched his daughter's face light up with joy at every new discovery, and Celeste's face mirror that joy. He took pictures, dozens of them, wanting to remember every moment of this perfect week. On their last evening, they walked along the beach at sunset, Lily running ahead of them, her laughter carried back on the ocean breeze. "Thank you," Celeste said quietly, her hand in Owen's. "For what?" "For pulling me out of that creek," she said. "For giving me a second chance. For showing me what life could be like when you stop running and start living." "I think we saved each other," Owen said. "You gave me and Lily something I didn't even know we were missing. You made us whole." "We made each other whole," Celeste corrected, and kissed him as the sun painted the sky in shades of gold and pink. They married in early fall, in a simple ceremony in their backyard under the old oak tree. It was small, just a handful of friends, Celeste's mother and Patricia, who had become fast friends with Owen, and Lily, who took her role as flower girl with utmost seriousness. Celeste wore a simple white dress and flowers in her hair. Owen wore his best shirt and couldn't stop smiling. And when Lily stood between them during the ceremony, holding both their hands, and the officiant pronounced them a family, there wasn't a dry eye present. "You're really my mama now?" Lily asked Celeste afterward, her small face serious. "I've been your mama for a while now, sweetheart," Celeste said, kneeling down. "But yes, now it's official, if that's okay with you." "It's the best," Lily declared, throwing her arms around Celeste's neck. "I always wanted a mama." Owen watched them embrace, his wife and his daughter, and felt something settle deep in his chest. This was what peace felt like, what wholeness felt like, what home felt like. That evening, after the guests had gone and Lily was asleep, Owen and Celeste stood on the porch, their porch, and looked out at the property that was now officially theirs together. "I can't believe this is my life," Celeste said, echoing her words from months ago. "A year ago I was drowning in work, in stress, in a life that was killing me slowly, and now—" She gestured at everything. "Now I have this. I have you. I have Lily. I have purpose and peace and actual happiness. And I have you," Owen said, pulling her close. "The woman I pulled from the creek became the missing piece of our world. How's that for unlikely?" "The best kind of unlikely," Celeste said, and kissed him. The seasons turned. Fall became winter, became spring. Celeste's teaching load increased. She took on 2 additional classes and started a mentorship program at the college. Owen's business grew steadily, and they hired a 3rd apprentice. Lily thrived, blossoming under the love and attention of two devoted parents. And then, on a warm spring morning, Celeste stood in the bathroom staring at two pink lines on a pregnancy test, her hands shaking. She found Owen in the workshop, carefully sanding a rocking chair he was making for a client's nursery. The irony wasn't lost on her. "Owen?" she said, and something in her voice made him look up immediately. "What's wrong?" "Nothing's wrong," she said, and couldn't stop the smile spreading across her face. "I'm pregnant." The sanding block fell from Owen's hand. Are you sure?" "3 tests worth of sure," Celeste said, laughing through sudden tears. "We're having a baby." Owen crossed to her in 3 strides and swept her into his arms, lifting her off her feet and spinning her around before carefully setting her down. "We're having a baby," he repeated, wonder in his voice. "I'm going to be a father again. You're going to be a mother." "I'm already a mother," Celeste corrected, thinking of Lily. "But yes, now I'll be a mother twice over." They told Lily that evening, sitting her down with gentle seriousness. "Baby girl, we have some important news," Owen started. Lily looked between them with wide eyes. "Are we getting a puppy?" Celeste laughed. "Not quite. Sweetie, there's going to be a new baby in our family. You're going to be a big sister." Lily's mouth fell open. "A real baby? Like a tiny one?" "Like a tiny one," Owen confirmed. "In about 7 months." "Can I teach it stuff?" Lily asked immediately. "Like how to catch fish and collect eggs and build forts?" "When the baby's big enough, absolutely," Celeste said, pulling Lily onto her lap. "You'll be the best big sister." "This is even better than a puppy," Lily declared, and hugged Celeste tight. The pregnancy was smooth and uneventful. Celeste continued teaching through her 2nd trimester, finally taking leave as she entered her 3rd. Owen fussed over her constantly, to the point where she had to remind him she was pregnant, not made of glass. "I carried Lily all over creation doing physical labor," she reminded him when he tried to stop her from weeding the garden. "I can handle pulling a few weeds." "I know," Owen said. "I just want to take care of you." "You do take care of me," Celeste said, softening. "Every single day. But let me take care of myself too, okay? I'm not fragile." Celeste's mother visited several times during the pregnancy, and while their relationship still had rough patches, it had grown into something genuine and warm. She'd finished her cancer treatment and was in remission, and she told Celeste repeatedly how proud she was of the life her daughter had built. "You were right to leave that corporate world," she said one afternoon, watching Lily show Celeste her latest drawing. "I can see how happy you are here. How loved. I'm sorry it took me so long to understand that success isn't about money or titles. It's about this, about family and love and having a life that fills your heart." "I'm glad you see that now," Celeste said, squeezing her mother's hand. "And I'm glad you're here." The baby arrived on a crisp October morning after 12 hours of labor that left Owen more exhausted than Celeste. They named him Samuel Owen Mercer. Samuel for Celeste's father, who had passed when she was young, Owen for his own legacy. Lily met her baby brother in the hospital and was instantly smitten, insisting on holding him with careful supervision and declaring him the most perfect baby ever made. Owen held his son for the first time and felt his heart expand impossibly larger. He looked at Celeste, his wife, the mother of his child, the woman who'd stumbled into his life and changed everything, and saw his own overwhelming love reflected in her eyes. "We made this," she whispered, "this perfect little person. We made him together." "We made a family," Owen corrected. "All of us together." They brought Samuel home to the house by the creek, to the life they'd built together from broken pieces and second chances. Lily helped with the baby with the intense focus of a devoted older sister. Celeste balanced motherhood with teaching, working from home when she could, occasionally bringing Samuel to her classes where he was passed around and cooed over by students. Owen expanded the house, building an addition with a proper nursery and a larger bedroom for Lily. His business continued to thrive, allowing them comfort and security. They planted a garden together each spring, collected eggs each morning, fished in the creek on quiet evenings. It was a simple life, measured not in promotions or profits, but in daily moments of connection and love. It was everything Celeste had never known she wanted, everything Owen had thought was beyond his reach. 2 years after Samuel's birth, on the anniversary of the day Owen had pulled Celeste from the creek, they stood by the water together. All four of them this time. Owen, Celeste, Lily, now 7 and wise beyond her years, and Samuel taking wobbly steps between them. "This is where it started," Celeste said, looking at the creek that ran clear and gentle in the afternoon sun. "Where my life actually began." "You were drowning," Owen said quietly. "And you saved me," Celeste finished, "in more ways than one. You pulled me out of the water that day, but you also pulled me out of a life that was drowning me just as surely. You gave me air, Owen. You gave me life." "We gave each other life," Owen said, wrapping his arm around her waist as they watched their children play at the water's edge. Lily showing Samuel how to skip stones, her patient voice carrying back to them on the breeze. "Look at them," Celeste said softly. "Look at what we built. From chaos and fear and one moment of courage, we built all this. A home, a family, a life worth living." "I love you," Owen said, turning to face her fully. "I love you for who you were when you fell into that creek, scared and drowning and desperate. I love you for who you became in my kitchen, making burned pancakes. And I love you for who you are now, strong and sure and exactly where you're meant to be." "I love you too," Celeste said, tears streaming down her face, happy tears, grateful tears. "Thank you for seeing me when I couldn't see myself. Thank you for believing I could be more than what I was. Thank you for loving me enough to let me figure it out." They kissed as the creek flowed past them, the same water that had brought them together now bearing witness to the life they'd created. Lily called out something about a really big fish, and Samuel shrieked with delight at something only toddlers could see. And Owen thought about that night 2 years ago when he'd heard the knock on his door during the storm, how close he'd come to not answering, to turning away the woman who would become his everything. How a single choice, to help, to open his door, to give a stranger a second chance, had transformed all their lives. Sometimes the best things in life came from the most unlikely places. Sometimes family wasn't about blood, but about choice and commitment, and showing up every day with open hearts. Sometimes drowning was just the beginning of learning how to truly breathe. The woman Owen had pulled from the creek all those months ago, polished, desperate, lost, was gone. In her place stood Celeste Mercer, wife, mother, teacher, partner. A woman who'd traded corner offices for kitchen tables, quarterly reports for bedtime stories, efficiency metrics for the immeasurable wealth of a life lived with purpose and love. And as they walked back to the house together, children between them, the setting sun painting everything gold, both Owen and Celeste knew with absolute certainty that they'd found what everyone spends their whole lives searching for. They'd found home. They'd found love. They'd found each other. And that was more than enough. That was everything.